Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Welcome to tonight's special broadcast of the Ray Esports Racing League, brought to you by the SCCA Foundation here on Apex Racing TV. For the last 9 weeks, almost 200 racers across 4 different classes, Spec Racer Ford, Spec Miata, and 2 touring car classes have put it all on the line to be named the Ray Esports Racing League Season 10 champion. Who's going to be the next Morgan Burkhardt, the man who now sits beside me in the commentary booth, where he swept each of the classes he raced in Season 8 just 2 seasons ago, or maybe the next Beans Forster, the driver who did the same in season number 7? Well, we've got the answers, but you're going to have to wait a little bit and stick with us here tonight. We'll fill in all the answers for you. And that's because tonight it's the Runoffs, a winner-take-all event with 25-minute races for each of our 4 classes. And for this special event, we head to Steam Corners Road, where Les Griebling, born almost 100 years ago to the day, lived out his passion for speed, winning a soapbox derby at the age of 12 and then blossoming as a test pilot during World War II. Les would go on to open an auto repair business in Mansfield, Ohio, and with the president of the local sports car club, he'd stumble upon this little plot of land, bound for foreclosure. And in the minds of Griebling, that rural field in nearby Lexington, Ohio, held all that a racetrack could be. And on a beautiful day in August of 1962, to the delight of 30,000 spectators, road racing in Central Ohio, Mid-Ohio, was born. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and joining me in the announce booth is the aforementioned Morgan Burkhardt, with Josh Wilkie in the virtual production trailer, giving you all the best views and all the best audio, apparently, of tonight's very special event. And so, good evening, Morgan. How are you doing this fine night?
I am doing just swimmingly here, Greg. This is, I feel like I say it every week, but this is, one of my favorite tracks in North America. But I think I mean it this time. This track is very special. It's, I swear, I do mean it. This track, it's very special. It's very technical. It's got a whole lot of elevation change. And, you really have to focus on your driving and driving skills and concentrate to get a car wheeled around here.
Yeah, indeed. And, we talk about some of the tracks, like, for example, Barber, where we were last week, and, where your hands always seem to be moving. You have those elevation changes, and there's no real time to rest. But that is, like, amped up to 10 here at Mid-Ohio, where, you get one corner wrong, and seemingly you're going to end up botching up the following 6 corners. I mean, it is so tough here at Mid-Ohio to get a rhythm and get into a good rhythm here, as we are on board right now with Seth Spolman. And Seth has come home as our pole sitter in the Touring 4 class in these Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars for a number of races this season. Tell you what, Morgan, why don't we follow him along and get in a good lap of Mid-Ohio?
Yeah, as we're heading through the first corner, got a little bit of traffic in front of us, but I think we're going to be able to deal with that just nicely. Coming up to the chicane, it's flat out on entry, dragging the brakes, keeping it nice and tight through the middle of it, and then straighten that car. Straighten that car up a little bit into the keyhole. We had a little bit of an incident there, just getting caught out by some of the multi-class, but we're going to continue on with this lap as we're coming down the back straight. Coming out of the keyhole, it's extremely important to get a good run and make sure that you can get as much speed onto the back straight as you can, because this is the longest straight, and on this configuration of the track, probably the best passing zone. And into the famous China Beach. Lots of camber here. You can brake really deep, not quite that deep, but you can brake really deep, use that camber to your advantage, come back to the middle of the track as we're heading into Madness. The track kind of falls away from you as you crest the hill, bending it through the right-hander. That curb on the inside is going to be your friend, tracking out all the way left to then turn left, cresting the hill into a nice double right-hand corner to finish out Madness. Going to let the car just kind of float through here. The car gets light again over the crest of the hill, and in this car will get a lot of front wheel spin and make it understeers. We're heading through Thunder Valley, going to brush the wall on the right as we enter the corner, throw the car into this left-hander, and then into the carousel. It's more of a double apex corner. You go in really deep, you miss that little bit in the middle, and then bring it back, as we're going to see Seth Spolman take to the pit lane after, I think, a little bit of contact with Frank Schwartz, and he's going to get a repair on that car. But that's a full lap of Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. And as you come through that carousel, then you've got a very quick left-hander that brings you onto that short front straight to complete the lap. And thanks to Seth for running that lap for us. And so let me give you a quick rundown here, Morgan, and everybody listening and watching at home. Like Brendan Kennedy, like Jacob Schilling, who one of our racers this season, couldn't be with us here tonight. And we're going to have 3 different races tonight. During our regular season, where they are normally 20 minutes in length, tonight they are going to be 25 minutes in length. We are giving our drivers 15 minutes to set the grids for each one of these races. Our first race is going to be our touring cars. We've got our T3 class, Touring 3, which is made up of the Toyota GR86 Cup cars. And there is Caleb Patry, our provisional pole sitter in the Toyotas. And then we've got our T4 class, Touring 4, which is made up of the Jetta TDI Cup cars. And in the TDI Cup cars, currently your provisional pole sitter is Jamison Huffman. There he is in the number 89 machine here, as they are going to set qualifying times. And typically at most of the race courses we've seen, Morgan, the Toyotas and the Jettas, they seem to set very similar lap times, but they do it in very different ways.
Exactly, yeah. The Jetta has some multi-class action there, but yeah, these cars make speed incredibly differently. The Jetta has a ton of torque, so it's going to come off the corner and go down the straights like a bull in a china shop. It's going to go really fast. The Toyota, not so much power, not so much torque, but it's a lot lighter and has a lot more mechanical grip with a little bit of aero assistance. It's going to go through corners like glue compared to the Jetta, which is front wheel drive and tends to pogo stick a lot. So the Jetta, it is a bull, really. I mean, it goes really well in a straight line, but when you ask it to turn, it doesn't really do much. It's a shame when you think about it. It's a lot of fun to race these cars, but you really have to work on tire management, especially with the front tires. As we've mentioned before, it's a front wheel drive car, and you're asking the front wheels to brake, accelerate, and turn, which tends to overheat them a lot.
All right, so Morgan, we were talking a little bit here about our provisional pole sitter, Caleb Patry, and should not be a huge surprise, Caleb Patry in the Toyotas. He was our Season 10 regular season champion. Now, we gave our regular season in the Esports Racing League runs over the course of 9 weeks, and during those 9 weeks, each of our 4 classes, they get to race 6 different times. And Caleb won, I believe, 4 out of the 6 races in the Toyotas, and had a commanding lead over the rest of the field going into the final week of racing last week at Barber. And Caleb Patry takes the Season 10 championship by 33 points over Kyle Robertson, with Beans Forster, who was our Season 9 champion, coming home 3rd in the championship. And if we jump over and look at Touring 4 at the Volkswagen Jettas, taking the Season 10 championship, Miles Crabb. This one was a lot closer and came down to the very last week of the season. Seth Spolman, who we were following around the track here early on. Seth, I believe, had 3 pole positions over the course of the season, got his very first win of the season, and he missed out on the championship by 10 points with Trenton Kramer. And Trenton, who has been on the podium before in the Touring 4 class. Trenton Kramer, a B-Spec racer, a front-wheel drive mini racer in real life. Talking about a fish take in the water. Trenton Kramer finished 3rd in the championship. And want to thank Morgan, and I think this is as good a time as any to bring it up, as we still have about 5 minutes left to go here in qualifying. You mentioned that we have Frank Schwartz in qualifying here, and he is sitting in the pit lane currently, and I'm looking to see if he is in one of our green rooms that maybe we could bring him in. But Frank Schwartz is the proprietor of GPM Grass Paddock Motorsports, and over the calendar year 2023, seasons 8, 9, and 10, Grass Paddock has been sponsoring their Sim to Track initiative, where over the course of the 3 seasons, we'd be tracking our racers that have real-life competition licenses and those who don't. and we would be providing 2 drivers, one with a competition license, one without, a prize of an arrive and drive package for the non-competition holding racers, so that they could go to a competition licensing school and get their competition license. And for those who already have a competition license or are already racers, whether it be with NASA or SCCA or Grid Life or one of the other organizations, an arrive and drive package so that they could take to the course in one of Grass Paddock's B-Spec Mini Coopers, B-Spec being I believe the 4th largest class right now in the Sports Car Club of America's major series. And a committee of 3 people, Frank Schwartz, myself, and Stevie Ray from Ray Esports Racing, we all put our heads together and found the drivers who were most worthy recipients of these prizes, and they're based on 3 criteria: clean racing, performance improvement, as well as participation. And for our non-licensed driver, there she is on track, Megan Overstreet, who was our season 10 Touring 4 champion. She is going to win an arrive and drive package from Grass Paddock Motorsports, so she can see about getting her competition license and maybe moving from the sim, well, to the racetrack. And, well, it's going to be hard to picture him here on track right now, but I'd like to announce that our competition license holder taking the prize is none other than, well, sitting right next to me here in the commentary booth, it's Morgan Burkhardt. Morgan was our season 8 champion. He finished 3rd in the championship in season 9, and he was leading the championship here in season 10 before he jumped into the announce booth with me. And so hopefully we'll get a chance to congratulate Megan. Hey, if she finishes up on, if she takes the win tonight, we'll probably get to talk to her in the commentary booth here. But Morgan, congratulations on your prize.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to Frank and Stevie as well for selecting myself and Megan as well. It's a very cool opportunity that Frank is providing for an upcoming sim driver to start to dip their toes into the real world.
Yeah, it was a very difficult choice for us to make here, but I mean, in the end, we had so many drivers that really deserve the prize, but there were some, you know, that really stuck out above the rest. And you know, Morgan, you know, we've seen what you can do in a spec racer Ford in real life, and I'm sure it would be neat to see. You've had some front wheel drive racing experience in your Honda CRX, so it'll be interesting to see what you can do in a Mini Cooper in B-Spec. So let's jump back in here. We've got about a minute and a half left to go in qualifying, Morgan, and it appears as though our provisional pole sitters from both classes now have taken to the pit lane.
It does, but something interesting is the kind of overlap between the 2 fields, like we talked about, how these cars make speed a little bit differently, and this is an interesting characteristic of this track, that being so technical, the field spread is going to be a little bit larger just because it is so hard to drive around here. So Jamison Huffman in that number 89 car is 10th overall. He's about smack dab in the middle towards maybe the middle, maybe bottom 3rd of the GR field. So it'll be interesting to see come race time how quickly and how much overlap there's going to be.
Yeah, and we'll see how this plays out, because typically with events that start here at Mid-Ohio, we have a very short pace lap. We want the 2 different groups. They are going to start, they should be starting separately, Morgan, in the 2 different packs, with the Toyotas up front and the Jettas behind. And I think it's going to be up to our Jetta pole sitter to leave a sufficient gap so that they don't run up and start intermixing early on in this 25-minute race. I think it's pretty safe to assume that's going to happen at some point during this race. But with the stakes on the line here, it would be good to see those Jettas battling it out together for as long as is possible here, as we are just about to hit that 15-minute mark. The checkered flag should now be out, and our drivers are on their last flying laps. You can see there Caleb Patry from the pits. He is currently your provisional pole sitter. He has what, Morgan? Almost a 0.3 of a second advantage over Beans Forster. Andrew Wozencroft, great running for him, for the Spec Miata racer out of Northern California, currently sitting third here in qualifying at a 137.87, about 0.8 off of Forster's times, with Kyle Robertson, who finished second in the championship, currently our fourth fastest driver at Mid-Ohio in the Toyotas. And then in the Jettas, Jamison Huffman resting on his laurels. As you mentioned, he's sitting almost smack dab in the field right now, I think 11th fastest overall. And we'll have second fastest is Miles Crabb, our season 10 champion, with Jim Brewster in the 933 machine, third fastest. Look at that, Jim Brewster putting in a great time of 139.43, about 0.4 off of Crabb's times. But those Jettas, you know, they use the draft so much here, and I think, as you mentioned, that long back straight is going to really, I think, keep the field very close together.
Yeah, and in my experience with this track, especially in the Jetta and sometimes even the GR as well, it becomes a bit of a draft train. Like, you know what you see in Formula One, there's a DRS train where the straights are long enough that you can stay within the DRS window, but they're not quite long enough that you can actually do something with it. That's a lot of what it's going to be like here tonight. Because these corners are so hard and they're so weirdly shaped, it's hard to carry a good run out of it. So if you're on the bumper going in and you're 0.3 of a second out and you get a pretty equal run, you're not really gonna get anything to do with it at the end of the straight unless you get a really good run out of the corner. So it's gonna reward perfection here tonight.
All right, so Morgan, before we run down the grid for tonight's first race, I want to mention that tonight's runoff race, as well as all of our runoff races here this evening, are brought to you by the SCCA Foundation, a 501c3 public charity that supports the Sports Car Club of America and motorsports initiatives through programs and projects like the Teen Driving Program, Tire Rack Street Survival, Women on Track scholarships, Vet Motorsports, Formula SAE, and much more. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at any time tonight or in the future at sccafoundation.org. All right, so as we're getting ready here, Morgan, the field is starting to head to the track and grid up for tonight's first race of the evening, a 25-minute race, and it looks like we've got 14 Toyotas. We've got, let's see here, 9 Volkswagen Jettas, and tell you what, I'll run down the Toyotas if you want to I'll take the Toyotas if you want to take the Jettas. Starting on the front row tonight in the Toyota GR86, the T3 class, it is our season 10 champion Caleb Patry, Beans Forster, who again was our season 9 champion. He's going to start to his left on the outside of row number 1. Then on row number 2, starting third, it's Andrew Wozencroft with Kyle Robertson, with Rick Wishin starting 5th, and Stevie Ray, the Ray Esports Racing, starting in 6th. That will make up row number 3. Then we've got Ray Blethen starting 7th with John Wilson, not to be confused with Rick Wishin. John Wilson starting in 8th. Brian McRae will start 9th with Corey Heffron starting in 10th. Then we've got Stephen Blethen, that is Ray's twin brother, going to start 11th tonight in the Toyotas, with Brad Gould starting 12th in the number 97 machine. And then making up row number 7 in the Toyotas, it's Mark Sherman, and welcome back to Ray Sports Racing, Andre Jamison.
And heading up the Touring 4 field, the Jetta field tonight, is going to be Jamison Huffman with pole time of 1:38.609. 0.3 clear of his roommate Miles Crabb, starting in the 2nd spot with Jim Brewster in 3rd. Trenton Kramer following him in 4th, less than a 10th back. Megan Overstreet less than a 10th back from him, starting in the 5th spot with Seth Spolman in 6th. The 4th row on the grid will be Grass Paddock Motorsports owner Frank Schwartz, followed by Joaquin Effinger. And oh no, there's one more. Wayne, how could I forget Wayne? Joaquin and Wayne still together.
That's right. So Joaquin Effinger is starting at 8th, and Wayne Buttermore starting in 9th. He'll be our sole driver on row number 5. All right, so we've got the Toyotas now heading through turn 11 and into the carousel area. The car on your left, that's the 198 machine of Caleb Patry. He is your pole sitter. The pace car already on the pit lane, and they are going to bring the field now down through that short little left-hander onto the front straight, and green flag already is in the air, and we are racing here from the Ray Esports Runoffs at Mid-Ohio. as Patry and Forster head down underneath the Cooper Tire Bridge for the very first time. They'll have to watch for cold tires as we've got drivers using that little curbing to separate the pit lane from the track surface. They're going to come down. We are running the club course version of the track. It's got that little chicane there that you can see, making it 16 turns or 2.4 miles as the Jettas now get their green flag, Morgan, and they're coming out of turn 1. We got some drivers running pretty wide. That was Trenton Kramer in the 444 machine using all the curbing and some more as Jamison Huffman leads them through the chicane up to the keyhole for the first time.
Yeah, a little bit of cold tire action there, getting some cone killers in, but Beans Forster's taking the lead from Caleb Patry. We'll see how long does Caleb want to wait. It's a 25-minute race, 5 minutes longer than every other race that we have had so far this season. Caleb Patry all over the bumper of Beans Forster. It seems like he's got a good enough pace advantage as Beans Forster gets a little bit loose going through the second part of madness. Caleb Patry looks to show the nose, maybe has a look at it, but too early, too cold for it to be really of any value.
All right, as they come up over the crest of turn 9 there, that's when those cars get awfully loose. And Morgan, we're already seeing where Patry is he's taking some looks already here on Beans Forster, but you know, it is very difficult to make a pass here as quickly as some of these turns happen. What you really need to do is, you know, when you show the nose, is just kind of get the driver ahead of you, spending more time watching the mirrors and watching what he thinks you're going to do than watching what's ahead of him. But Beans Forster, he's going to complete lap 1 in the lead in the Toyotas, and we can already see there Patry taking a real late entry into turn number 1. He's going to pull up alongside and go side by side with Beans through the chicane, and that pushes Forster wide, and Forster ends up giving up a lot of pace, Morgan, so it's going to put Patry in the lead, and we'll see if Forster can hold off Wozencroft and Robertson. It looks like for the time being he does, but he's there stuck to the inside.
Yeah, it looked like Beans just got a little crossed up going through the first section and had to kind of chase the car off the road. But Robertson and Forster side by side going into China Beach. Robertson to the outside. We will see who is bravest on the brakes. Looks like Bean Forster is going to go ahead and reclaim second spot. But Caleb Patry 1.2 seconds up the road.
Yeah, just that couple of corners there really opens up a huge advantage for Patry early on, and you can see there as Forster has to hold off Robertson. Patry starting to scoot away as we jump back to the battle for the lead in the T4 class in the Volkswagen Jettas. It's our pole sitter Jamison Huffman with our season 10 champion Miles Crabb and Trenton Kramer, and then Jim Brewster, he's about 2 seconds in arrears. He's got Seth Spolman, Megan Overstreet, and Frank Schwartz directly behind him as Effinger and Buttermore have fallen off a little bit off the pace there. It looks like Corey Heffron, Morgan, who doesn't look like he actually took the green here this evening in his number 52 Toyota and has not taken to the track as of yet. We'll see if he ends up joining a little later in the race.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, with this lead group in the Jetta field, Jamison Huffman followed by Crabb, followed by Kramer, it's a little bit of a train, and again for fourth as well. So it'll at this point in the race, it's all about getting into a groove, making sure you're not using too much of that tire. And if I'm Miles Crabb right now, that's a pretty good spot for me. I can use the draft. I don't have to charge through corners anywhere near as hard as our leader Jamison Huffman does. So making sure that you're saving some tire for the end of this race as Jim Brewster goes a little bit wide. We'll see if Seth Spolman wants to have a sniff going into the keyhole, maybe on exit as well. So very tight battles here.
Yeah, and and I was going to say, Morgan, that we've seen with Miles Crabb that he has run some very well thought out races. He's not very quick to to try and pounce on somebody early on or go door to door with them early on. He's all for saving the equipment and and just learning what his competitor is going to do over the long run and pretty much just wait out his competitor until the very last laps when he still has the equipment underneath him and maybe the leader does not.
Yeah, and that's the key to this car is you have to have some tire towards the end, because the way that this tire reacts is it's not real friendly to the driver. So you'll get 2 or 3 laps of really good running, and even if you're nice to them, they'll start to go away right after that. So yeah, Miles Crab has shown us all season long that he can kind of whisper to the tire and make it last until the end of this race. But I know Jameson Huffman has a lot of experience with this car, with this kind of racing, so it'll be an interesting battle to see who's nicest to the car over the course of the 25 minutes.
And so for these tires, it's not like you can maybe dial things back for a couple laps in the Jettas and they'll start to come back to you. You pretty much put them over the edge and they stay there. Is that kind of the deal?
Yeah, pretty much. As soon as you get those tires, it's more based on the heat of the tire. So as soon as you overheat it, it doesn't really, like, you can even cool it down, it's still kind of glazed over on the surface and it doesn't provide a whole lot of grip. So you really have to kind of ease into it, and once you step over that line, you can't really take your foot back. It's like stepping in a pot of glue.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, so we're watching right now. This is the battle for second in the Touring 3 class in the GR86s, and you can see all that weight transfer when these cars come through the both Madness and then through the S's over here, and then cresting over the top of turn number 9. They just seem kind of roly-poly, moving from left to right, but all the while those tires just have a ton of stick. Caleb Patry just runs the fastest lap of the race, runs a 136.8. That was just about actually about 0.8 of a second faster than that second to group of Forster, Robertson, and Wozencroft.
Yeah, it's Caleb Patry again, like we've seen him do all season long. He's had lightning quick pace and is able to really just punch away from the field early on. So we'll see if that can continue. He's done a very good job so far. We're only 5 laps into this race, so a long way to go. But he's shown pretty much the whole season that he can be consistent, he can be fast. But we'll see if Beans Forster and Kyle Robertson start to fight. Then it's pretty much game over. They're still in striking distance. So if Patry does make a slightly uncharacteristic mistake, he goes too deep in a corner, maybe drops a tire somewhere, they're still in it. And once you get the draft, it's a lot harder to break away.
Yeah, and and how big is the draft here? I mean, time-wise, we know like that you can go a little bit over a second, say, with the MX-5s and what the Spec Racer Fords will do. Right now, there is about 0.8 separating Forster and Robertson from Wozencroft in that number 80 machine, and I suspect that if Robertson and Forster start jockeying for position, will bring Wozencroft back up. But is he at this point, you think, still kind of locked in the draft, or is seems to be falling off the pace just a little bit here?
Wozencroft is definitely still in the draft. I think the draft in this car will go back to about a second. So he's on the fringe of it. He's not getting a whole lot of it, but he's still getting, half a mile an hour, maybe a mile an hour benefit down the back straight. But if you can get a really good tow from 1 or 2 cars, it's probably going to be worth about 6 to 7 tenths per lap. So, and it does look like Wozencroft is struggling quite a lot with some slow speed mid corner understeer, which is, it's interesting. These cars have a lot of different setup options, unlike the Volkswagen Jetta that we've got, which is just fuel. That is the only thing you can change on that car. This thing, it's got some damper, it's got some camber, it's got some tow, it's got some wing. So you got a lot of different things that you can play with. And we're seeing Benjamin Forster, Beans Forster, having a little bit of a loose car to start. We're seeing Wozencroft a little bit of a tight car. So it's interesting to see the different strategies taken by drivers.
All right, so hey Josh, maybe we can jump back to that battle for the lead in the Jettas and check back in on Jameson Huffman, Miles Crab, and yeah, there they are. Hey, looks just like when we left them, Morgan. As there's about a car length and a half to 2 car lengths separating, but I think the difference is we're seeing now where they are starting to come up on some slower traffic, and looks as though I think they're coming up on, is that we'll have to see. I guess
Andre
that
James
is
and Stevie Ray, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say Andre and Stevie Ray must have had an issue as he lost a number of positions. Started off in 6th position. He now finds himself back in 11th. So might have had some challenges here. I mean, this is one of those tracks where, like I said, you get one corner wrong, and it can definitely bite you. And I suspect that there's some of the curbs here. Probably now something like this as they start to come into the S's over at turn 7, very flat curb, probably not much of an issue, but I mean, certainly there are others that might jack the wheels up in the air on those Toyotas as they transfer their weight from side to side.
Yeah, turn one, a big step up from like we're seeing right here with Rick Wishing going side. Oh, getting a little bit of a touch from one of the Blethens, I believe, but is able to keep that on the road. Very good save from him. He's able to continue out of turn one. But yeah, there's a big step up curb at the apex of turn one, and if you hit that wrong, it kind of jacks up the weight transfer of the car, and then suddenly you have a much different grip coefficient. So it's
So
interesting
suddenly
to
you're
see.
looking back at the bridge over before turn one and through the front windshield instead of the rear windshield, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your front engine car becomes a Porsche 911. So
Yeah.
it's it's interesting, but it looks like the top three in the Jetta field, they're kind of just sitting right behind the Andre Jameson, Steve Ray, and Mark Sherman kind of pack right there. So not really making too many inroads, but like we were talking about in the open, comparing this track to Barber and one where your hands are always busy, this track I would rank as a little bit more difficult than Barber, just because Barber, all of those corners are they're all pretty much cambered. So you have the track kind of working with you, helping you. The only corner that's cambered here is China Beach, which we just saw there. Everything
Yeah.
else is over the crest of a hill, off camber, blind, you name it. So the track is actively working against you to kind of throw you off and throw you off the track.
Yeah, indeed. And and it's interesting, as iRacing had scanned this track a number of years ago, this track has been known for not having a ton of grip to begin with. And as you said, it's going to be a challenge watching these drivers try to keep the equipment, keep those four tires with a decent level of grip through the end of this 25-minute race. By the way, we're only about 12 minutes in, a little bit less than halfway through this 25-minute race. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in real life just got repaved about a month ago, and has had a couple of sessions with race cars on it. But I would assume that it's going to be a very different track when many racers come back in the spring. The Sports Car Club of America is going to be there this spring for the Super Tour, and it's going to be, this has been, I think, a very good test for drivers running in the Esports Racing League and in iRacing in general to kind of get a small feeling for how cars are going to deal with the coefficient of grip here, and maybe not so much come this spring.
Yeah, and likewise, another track that's just been repaved is Road America, and
Yeah.
from what I've heard, these two tracks are using the same kind of material and same process of laying down the tarmac and the new asphalt for Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. So it'll be a lot of the same as Road America, where it's a very one-liney track. It's not got a whole lot of grip offline, where it's pretty much the same as it used to be at this track, where there was so much rubber laid down on the line that if you got off the line, it was like a light switch turned on and off.
Right.
But
let alone if it rained.
yeah, I've seen pictures. Pictures of this track looking at the carousel where there's very definite the racing line when it's wet, which is, I'd like to say it's really easy to drive this track in the rain.
No.
Because you can see where the racing line is. But as soon as you cross over the racing line, it goes from, okay-ish, probably not great grip, to absolutely nothing. So I've seen onboards here. I've never actually driven here, but I've seen onboards here. A couple of friends of mine were here for the majors this year. And you come across the line and it's just plowing across. But we got a replay up of Frank Schwartz here.
Yeah, let's take a look. Frank Schwartz from GPM Motorsports, Grass Paddock Motorsports. He is going to be taking his car into the pits. Let's see why. As he just came out of the keyhole here, Morgan, and he's heading down, well, maybe just some equipment issues.
Yeah, it could be some hardware failures. Thought it was better to kind of park the car and not risk anybody else in an impossible failure there. So unfortunate for sure. We're sorry to see Frank go.
So let's jump back here as we're watching now. Caleb Patry continues as your leader in the Toyota GR86s in the Touring 3 class. Beans Forster, though he's lost Kyle Robertson. I'm sure he's not really too upset about that. But it is pretty much about 2.4 seconds separating Patry from Forster. Forster back to Robertson, and about another 2 seconds back to Andrew Wozencroft. That is your top four right now in the Toyotas. And, this is the point where, as we are now 15 minutes into this 25-minute race, where I'm not going to say much, because the last time I mentioned anything about Caleb having an easy run of it, he ended up giving up the lead with like 4 laps to go. So, but Caleb Patry currently your leader.
That is one interview and conversation I do not wish to have again. So
Yeah,
we're gonna
that
hop
was
back
awkward.
to the. It was very awkward for sure. But hopping back to the leader in the Jetta field, it's still Jameson Huffman followed by Miles Crabb. They have lost Trenton Kramers. He's gonna take an off-track excursion coming out of turn number 1. But yeah, Huffman followed by Crabb. They still have the tires under them. They're still chugging away. Normally, this would be about the 5-minute mark, so you would try to start making moves, start to poke at your competitor, your adversary here. We still got 10 minutes left to go in this race. So Miles Crabb following Jameson Huffman, and you can see Jameson got a much better exit coming out of the keyhole, and Miles Crabb, the draft still really hasn't kicked in yet. It's only about 115, 120 miles an hour where it actually starts to really gain you something. So it's what I was talking about in the open, where you have to be very perfect, as Miles Crabb goes a little bit deep,
Little deep.
trying to gain back some time on Jameson Huffman. Jameson looking real precise, real comfortable still. As there's a fight right up in front of them between 2 GRs. We will have to keep an eye on that and make sure that nothing exciting happens.
Yeah, and you look at it, that extra 5 minutes, that will likely turn out to be an extra 4 laps in this race, Morgan, at the end. And that is a lot of extra time, over 2.5 miles for these tires on the Jettas to hold up, and I think really changes the strategy of these drivers and how soon they can attack. But we find here in this multi-class racing is big a gap there as Jameson Huffman had built up, as they are coming up right now on Mark Sherman and I believe Andre Jameson. That both Huffman and Crabb, they're going to start to compress things down a little bit here, as they're going to have to try and find their way by.
Yeah, and this could be very awkward, as they're both are racing. So Jameson and Sherman, they're in their own race. It might not be for the lead, but they are still having a race, and Huffman and Crabb kind of have to be respectful of that. Is Huffman starting to eke out a little bit of a gap over Crabb? It's starting to kind of go up by half a tenth, maybe a little bit less than half a tenth per lap, but he's still starting to edge and edge and edge. And the further he edges out, the less draft Miles is going to have. So it's a bit of an exponential kind of a gain. So the further Huffman gets away, the more Miles has to work to stay with him. As we're seeing Sherman and Jameson going side by side into China Beach. Sherman's going to get the move done for now. Jameson comes right back up the inside, side by side through madness. Very good stuff here. Sherman's going to be able to take that spot for 11th. Jameson slots in behind, but Huffman and Crabb are right there now.
Yeah, exactly. They've now been able to pull right up alongside, and there's nothing better if you're trying to catch a draft than 2 cars ahead of you going side by side. And a great little battle there. You'd never know that is the battle for 11th position in the Toyotas, in the GR86 Cup cars, but they're having a great little fight, and they're not under any kind of obligation there to let the Jettas through. They're there to battle on, and so this is something that Jameson Huffman, Morgan, is going to have to contend with. Is he now has to watch and see if Miles Crabb sees an opening that he can take advantage of while Huffman gets bottled up in here.
As Jameson going down the inside of Sherman into turn 1, Sherman is able to carry a ton of speed around the outside, keep that move done. They're going to go single file again through this chicane, and here I think you're going to see just how much easier it is for that GR to kind of pivot around the corner. As soon as they get in here, as soon as they get on the throttle, that gap just starts to open, as they have so much more mid-corner rotation. They can get to the throttle a lot sooner, carry a better run out of the corner. But here's where the Jetta is good in a straight line. It is not at all straight line challenged. It'll probably get right up to the back of Sherman and Jameson as they come into the braking zone of China Beach. So this is interesting, because Jameson, Huffman, and Miles Crabb, they've been a little bit faster than the pair in front of them over the course of the last few laps, but it's not been something huge. It's not been like second and a half a lap. It's only been a couple tenths. So if they do get an opportunity to pass without kind of messing up everything, you kind of have to take that, because you don't want to sit behind and just let Miles Crabb just draft right back up to him like he has already. So it's a very awkward kind of position that all 4 of these people are in.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, Josh, if it's possible, can we jump back, as we now have just about 5 minutes remaining in the race? This is jump back over to Jim Brewster sitting in fourth. He's got Seth Spolman, Megan Overstreet, and I think Brad Gould all with them as well. Oh,
Oh
as we've got.
my word!
But before we do that, we just had one of the Toyotas, Andre Jameson, go around going into the carousel, and that created a lot of issues for Jameson Huffman and Miles Crabb.
And that has solved the issue that all four of those were facing. But yeah, jumping back to Spolman and Overstreet here for I believe this is the battle for fourth.
Yeah, this is the battle for
no,
fourth,
fourth
with Brewster, Spolman, Overstreet all together, and I thought we had Brad Gould in that group. Oh, well, we do have Gould, but Gould is the Toyota trailing the three here.
Yeah, and it seems like, because he was in the middle of this just a few laps ago, so it seems like he has kind of bowed out, let them have their fight, kind of wait. Maybe they'll bring him up into Andre James and Mark Sherman. So yeah, and we're looking at the back of Jim Brewster, out the back of his car. Seth Spolman is he's got an asymmetrical setup for bodywork on that car.
Yes,
it's a little bit of a crushed in right fender.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's got a little. And you can see it right there as he takes the right hand turn through the S's there, or probably through turn 4 over by China Beach. As yeah, that wheel is just kind of hanging out there.
He's taking a leaf out of the NASCAR playbook, make that car handle a little bit better. So it's interesting to see, and that'll be something that if Seth doesn't know about, it'll be something that he wants to know about. Because if you start to go side by side, that wheel is suddenly a lot closer to other people. So if bodywork catches that, physics takes into account the fact that well, open wheel cars and collisions don't really mix well. So we'll just leave it at that, as we're gonna jump back to the battle between Joaquin Effinger and Wayne Buttermore, as Caleb Patry is coming through the field, gets through on both of them nicely. Joaquin Effinger kind of bows out of that. Beans Forrester as well, trying to slice through the lap traffic. Is he's gonna get in behind, taking the inside. Ooh, get real loose over the crest of that hill, but able to keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, we always joke about Joaquin Effinger and Wayne Buttermore being practically side by side, and there they were, practically side by side, as our T3 leaders were trying to get by, and it allowed Beans Forster to knock, in the last half lap or so, knock about a half second off of Caleb Patry's advantage. The problem is it's still around, you can see there, probably a good 20 car lengths, as Patry completes lap number 14, starts lap number 15, as we've got 3 minutes left on the clock here.
And we're jumping to the battle for fifth between Ray Blethen and Rick Wishon. This is one of the closest on the track right now. Again, the battle for number 5 spot is Blethen's gonna...
And Morgan, they're going into turn 1, possibly side by side, which is the last time we saw them go through here side by side. We had Wishon go around, and as there was contact originally between Ray and Rick, and they're going to keep it up side by side. They've got Stephen Blethen just behind.
Yeah, they're still side by side going into the keyhole. We're going to see if is he going to try the over under?
Yes, to get his nose in. And there's contact.
A little bit of contact.
Oof.
All is good. They're still straight on the exit, but a little bit of a bump and run there from Rick Wishon on Raymond Blethen. I'm going to concede that spot, let Blethen go back through, and now there's another Blethen here.
That's right. Yeah, loosen them up, then straighten them up as they come down as the two Blethens. Ray and Steven going down the inside, going to try to both get around Wishon. Wishon's going to have the inside as he comes up the hill into turn 5, into madness. He's going to hold off the 150 car for now, as we've got less than a minute remaining.
Yeah, and this would be a titanic scrap, as they're still side by side as they're coming through madness. Well, maybe Ray Blethen has a slowdown or out of fuel or something like that, as he is kind of dropping like a stone. Might have been a slowdown, as Rick Wishon is going to take the 5th spot. Actually, he might be out of fuel, as Raymond Blethen
continues
really
to fall
back.
Yeah,
we'll see if he takes to the pit lane.
Yeah, the 151 machine now has fallen back, and John Wilson has just gotten around him. Yeah, I think Ray Blethen's out of fuel.
That is definitely a shame, as he's going to try and limp that car back to pit lane. But yeah, onboard Ed is definitely stuttering a little bit. You see that the RPM just kind of spike a little bit right there as well. It's sputtering a good amount. So he's, maybe 10 yards, 20 yards away from the pit end. So we'll see if he can make it. But
Oh,
jumping back to our Jetta leaders as they're coming through.
trying to come underneath them. Yep.
Yeah, as they're going to start one, if not their
Yeah,
final
they're
lap.
starting their final lap
now.
now. Yeah, starting our final lap. There it is, white flag in the air for Jameson Huffman and Miles Crabb. Josh, if we can jump back over to Caleb Patry, who is our leader, as he is now coming into turn number 9. He's going to come up over that crest of that hill. Car is going to get loose, and he's going to come into Thunder Valley for the last time. And in the last 2 laps, and the last time that we checked in, Morgan, he's now opened up almost 7 seconds on Beans Forrester, and I'm starting to wonder, as Forrester continue to lose time, he may have run out of fuel as well, as he continues to lose ground here on this last lap, as Patry comes through 10 in and out of the carousel and across the line, and taking the win at the Season 10 Ray Esports Runoffs in the GR86s. It's Caleb Patry. Kyle Robertson is going to beat Beans Forrester to the line. Robertson, who finished second in the championship, the Patry, he's going to finish second here at the Runoffs. Beans Forrester will finish in third. Let's jump back over now to the Jettas, where we've got Jameson Huffman, our pole sitter. He's been able to handle and manage Miles Crabb from the drop of the green flag, but as they come through Thunder Valley, only 4 more corners remain.
Yeah, as this is going to be very difficult for Miles to get this move done. He's going to have to get extracurricular with it. He's got a pretty good run on Huffman, but Huffman covering the inside, going to make it really hard for Miles to come underneath of him. He's going to stay in front, coming out of the carousel, coming through the final corner. Jameson Huffman is going to take the gold in Touring 4. Miles Crabb will finish second on the podium, and jumping back to Trent Kramer will cross the line with the bronze.
There you go. And that run out of the carousel to the finish line, Morgan, is so short. It's almost impossible to slingshot by. You've almost got to be alongside him going through the carousel in order to have any kind of chance. All right, so finishing 4th in the Toyotas is Andrew Wozencroft, with Wishin coming home in 5th. John Wilson works his way up to 6th. Then Stevie Ray, Brian McRae, and then Mark Sherman and Andre Jameson. That rounds out your top 10 in the Toyota GR86s. In the Volkswagens, we gave you the top 3. Finishing 4th is Jim Brewster in the 933 machine. Seth Spolman will finish in 5th. Megan Overstreet, our sim to track winner for our non-licensed driver this weekend, is Megan Overstreet. She finishes in 6th. Finishing 7th is Joaquin Effinger. Wayne Buttermore finishes in 8th, and then Frank Schwartz finishes in 9th. By the way, if you want to find out more about Grass Paddock Motorsports and their arrive and drive packages with their B-Spec minis, you can find them at www.grasspaddock.com. All right, so let's do this. We've got a bunch of people sitting down in the waiting room here, Morgan. Let's do this. Let's bring in our 2nd place finisher in the Volkswagen Jettas, and our regular season champion, that's Miles Crabb.
Good evening, Miles. That was a very tight race. You never really left the bumper of Jameson Huffman, and we were talking about how hard it is to pass and make moves here. Walk us through how you were going to try and play that out tonight.
Really, it was try and wait till the last lap. Let me use my shifter to talk instead of pressing the button. It was wait till the last lap. I was a little worried that the 86s would be there the whole race because they were giving him a pretty good draft. We were able to pull away from Trenton purely because I was tucked up on him and he was tucked up on the 86s. It was a great race. Yeah, it was going to be an outbreaking duel, and he protected the inside all the way down the back straight, and I went to the outside and broke as deep as I was willing to, and he was way deeper and made the corner. So congrats to him. That was a fun race.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it was very close all the way through, and we talked about it in the open a little bit, as tire saving is the most important thing in this car, and you've done a very, very nice job of that all year long, and it seemed to go that way as well tonight. But before we let you go, as I'm sure you're into qualifying already, anybody you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, hi mom, hi dad. Thank you everybody. Got a few more people watching. Thank y'all for watching. Sorry, Ren, I finished second. I know you don't like me finishing second. I tried. If you're watching, I think you are. You were texting me. Anyway, yeah, let's have fun. Thanks, Stevie, for hosting this. Thank y'all for broadcasting.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck in the Spec Racer Ford, which is coming up next.
Thank you. My ping is 300, so I need it.
Oh boy, that'll be fun.
Oh my. All right, there you go, everybody. Miles Crabb, your regular season champion, finishing second tonight at the Runoffs. Let's move over quickly to Jamison Huffman, who took the win in Touring 4.
Good evening, Jameson. That was seemed like a very difficult race from your point of view, where you just kind of had Miles Crabb right there the whole time. How did you kind of just deal with that all race while saving tire?
I didn't really save any tire. I was just kind of driving from the start and figured if I get a gap, I get a gap. If not, it's whatever. Because I try to figure out how you could pass on the track, and with the chicane before the keyhole, it kind of gets rid of all of the setup that you can do through there to build a run. So as long as they're basically not pushing you out of the keyhole, there's not really much they can do into China Beach. So I just kind of drove and turned my mirrors off for most of the race.
Well, there you go. That's the way to do it. And it did seem a lot like it was some follow the leader out there. But you played your card right. You somehow saved some tires by just kind of driving around. So a big congratulations to you. And I see you're already out on track for the Spec Racer qualifying. So I wish you good luck, and hopefully we'll have you back here soon.
Thank you.
All right, there you go, Jamison Huffman. And it looks like Morgan Kilpatrick has already jumped into that Spec Racer Ford session, most likely has left the commentary booth. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, it's our second of 3 races here tonight from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It's Spec Racer Ford here at the Ray Esports Racing League Season 10 Runoffs on Apex Racing TV. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome back to Steam Corners Road to the beautiful Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, our site for tonight's Season 10 Ray Esports Runoffs here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Morgan Burkhardt. Hey, wanted to, Morgan, before we get into Spec Racer Ford, wanted to give a quick shout out to Jonathan Grabowski, my director for the Rickmotech series here on Apex Racing TV, and I could not get through the night if I did not say hi to Stubby. Stubby, who has joined the chat here, another one of our great Apex Racing TV fans. It's either Stubby or it's Bobby Childs. I don't know which one it is really, but they're alter egos. Anyway, I want to welcome him and want to welcome everybody else who's joining us here this evening on YouTube, in YouTube land. So Morgan, we are now what are we? A little bit over halfway through our Spec Racer Ford qualifying here, and the folks we just finished talking to a few moments ago, Miles Crabb, Jamison Huffman, they're all here sitting up at the top of the order. Caleb Patry, who ignored us after that last race, he jumps in. He's currently your third fastest Spec Racer Ford driver. Yeah,
and it's the other thing that's really cool about the Ray Esports Racing League is you have to be versatile if you're gonna try and do what some people have done in the past with really succeeding very well in multiple different classes. There's no break in between these races, so you got to go from one car immediately into a next and kind of flip a switch in your brain that'll make it okay to, or not okay, but you flip a switch so that you can adapt to the next car. As we see Miles Crabb and Megan Overstreet leapfrog Jamison Huffman, and it is now 2/10 separating the top three.
That's right. And so we talked to Miles Crabb a little bit earlier, and of course we told you he was our Season 10 regular season champion in the Jettas in the Touring 4 class. Well, guess what? He was also your Season 10 champion in Spec Racer Ford 3 as well, and so he's looking, and we took the win just a week ago in the final regular season race at Barber Motorsports Park in Spec Racer Ford. He's looking to improve upon that and take the Runoffs win as well. He is, as we mentioned, currently your provisional pole sitter, Megan Overstreet, who finished third in the championship in Season 8 and 9, but this year in Season 10 was your runner-up behind Miles Crabb. She is currently your second fastest driver in the Spec Racer Fords, and Jamison Huffman, as you mentioned, also leapfrogs Caleb Patry, the driver of the number 89 machine, who just came off his win in the Jetta, is your third fastest driver, and he is pretty much neck and neck with Megan Overstreet right now. The difference between those two drivers is 6/1000ths of a second.
It's quite close, and Antonio Rice goes even quicker and goes back to the pole, so about a 10th clear of Miles Crabbe. But we're not seeing a whole lot of drivers messing around with the draft here. It's worth a good amount of time in this car, as it's quite literally designed to draft well. So it's interesting because it's a what am I trying to say here? It's a risk reward kind of scenario where if you can do the draft right, you get, 9/10 of a second, 8/10 of a second out of it. But if you do it wrong, you get held up, and then you have to try again for another lap. And with 15 minutes of qualifying, you don't get that many tries at it.
No, you don't, as most of these racers now on either their 5th or 6th flying laps. There's Caleb Patry, and again, no drafting help ahead of him. And that would probably be the play, Morgan, whether or not it's somebody who's, got the same relative pace to you on track or not. But if you can hang 5-6 car lengths back at the maybe coming through turn 11 and be able to make up some ground through Thunder Valley, or make up ground even on the long back straight here, and pick up a 10th or 2, that could be enough to leapfrog you up to the next row on track. As Caleb Patry now, as we mentioned, and Patry's coming up now on one of our other drivers here. I think it's Corey Heffron in the 52 machine. Patry now falls back to 6th fastest. That would put him on the outside of row number 3.
That is, it's an uncharacteristic, it's an unfamiliar spot for Mr. Patry. So he'll be definitely looking to get in another lap, as Jamison Huffman goes back to the top of the boards, displacing Antonio Rice, goes about 6/100ths of a second faster. So the track seems to be improving. Their drivers are getting more comfortable with the car, as they're, like we said earlier, just switching over. So it'll be interesting. We might get some buzzer beater laps that displace people.
Yeah, and so, as we have the everything set up here for the Ray Sports Racing League runoffs, there are actually practice sessions that are available prior to qualifying. The problem is, for most of these racers, Morgan, is that the only practice session they're available for was that touring car race, or before the touring car race, because the practice session is actually going on while they're qualifying or racing in the earlier the preceding race. And so these drivers, they're pretty much getting into the Spec Racer Fords for the first time tonight, just as a lot of them, as they're just getting out of the touring cars, and they just, have to basically, they're not relearning the track per se, but they are having to get reacclimated to what is a very different type of car, rear-wheel drive car, versus, or in some cases, compared to the front-wheel drive Jettas, certainly, but the cars that handle very differently even than the rear-wheel drive Toyotas that are a little bit more roly-poly through the corners.
Yeah, and those Jetta drivers, like you talked about, it's the same kind of driving style conceptually with this car in the sim between the Jetta and the Spec Racer Ford. The only difference is that the Spec Racer, it tends to come at you with a flaming hot knife, whereas the Jetta will kind of slap you with a piece of ice cream. So this car having
that sounds
no
kinky.
having no ABS in the Spec Racer, no weight, and mid-engine, you have to drive it pretty similarly. You can't really turn in off throttle, or it's going to try and come around. Trail braking isn't really great, but yeah, the big thing is the ABS. If you get on the brakes a little too hard, you're going to lock up and you're going for a ride.
There you go. So we just saw Jamison Huffman, who had reset fast lap once again, putting in a 134.8 816 there, and increases his advantage over Antonio Rice by a couple hundredths of a second there. Not a heck of a lot, about 600ths of a second. Miles Crabbe now sitting 3rd fastest, and we've got Forster and Overstreet and Patry 4th, 5th, and 6th currently in the pits. It looks like they are not going to be coming back out here, of course, since we've just hit the 15-minute mark. The last flying laps here that drivers are working on should count, but if they were in the pits already, they're not going to be able to put in another lap as we're following Miles Crabb now on his last attempt to get up to the front row, trying to improve upon a 134.92. And as he crosses the line, he does not improve. Best he is going to do is third. And as we watch Antonio Rice on his last attempt to take pole from Jamison Huffman, he spins the car going into the carousel. His session is now done. And I believe we also had John Vogel out for a moment, who was looking to maybe move up in the order a little bit. He was not able to as well.
And we were watching Huffman towing around Andrew Wozencroft, but Huffman on his outlap does not look like Wozencroft will improve on his time. A few other people still out on track, but the grid pretty much set. Nobody else is on a lap that will count that I can see of, other than maybe Corey Heffron. But
yeah, and I think Heffron had already taken the checkered flag, Morgan. Yeah, at this point, don't believe he is going to be able to complete the session. There you go, as the qualifying is now complete. And again, a reminder to everybody that this and all of our races here this evening are brought to you by the SCCA Foundation. The SCCA Foundation is a 501c3 public charity that supports the SCCA and motorsports initiatives through programs and projects like the Teen Driving Program, Tire Rack Street Survival, Women on Track scholarships, Vet Motorsports, Formula SAE, and much more. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at any time at sccafoundation.org. All right, as we get ready now, Morgan, we're going to have our drivers heading to the grid momentarily.
As this, again, a short pace lap, so not really any time for drivers to get heat in the car, heat in the tire, heat in the brakes. So it'll be tiptoeing around for the first few laps. Is another characteristic of the Esports Racing League is that practice, qualifying, and the race, all three of those sessions happen at a different time of day. So you'll have different track conditions. The track usually gets hotter as the racing goes on between practice, qualifying, and the race event. So you'll have to kind of adapt on the fly to that.
All right, let's take a look at our starting order. As these drivers, as you mentioned, have a very, very short period of time to try and get heat in the tires before they take the green flag. Your pole sitter tonight, his second pole of the evening, is Jamison Huffman with a qualifying time of 134.816. Then Antonio Rice going to be on the outside of the front row. Miles Crabb, your regular season champion, will start on the inside of row number 2 with Beans Forster starting 4th on the outside. Then we've got Megan Overstreet and Caleb Patry. They'll make up row number 3, starting 5th and 6th, with Trenton Kramer and Jim Brewster starting 7th and 8th. Josh Justice, a Spec Racer Ford driver from Texas, will start in 9th, with John Vogel, another Spec Racer Ford racer in real life, starting right next to him in 10th. Then we've got, if we can roll back there and take a look at 11th and 12th real quick, Josh, there we go. Andrew Wozencroft starting 11th, with Stevie Ray from Ray Esports Racing starting in 12th. And then row number 7, that's going to be Brad Gould, who's had a little bit of time behind the wheel of somebody's Spec Racer Ford. He starts lucky 13th, with Corey Heffron starting 14th. Then Kyle Robertson, Stephen Blethen, Wishin and Jamison, oddly enough, Effinger and Buttermore, and then Mark Sherman. As our drivers get the green flag and leading the field underneath the bridge and through turn 1, it's Jamison Huffman. And we've already got a number of drivers having some challenges there through turn 1, Morgan.
Yeah, and it's already a 5-car breakaway with, it seems to be the rest of the pack all good. They have lost a lot of time, as there was somebody spun in the middle of the track. It might have been Megan Overstreet, but already a pack starting to separate out here. Nobody has really bitten the dust too hard yet. Everybody's still going along pretty good and not damaged at all.
Yeah, indeed. That was Megan Overstreet, who started off 5th tonight. She is now back in 18th position. The driver who finished 2nd in the regular championship. As we are watching, this is the second little battle going on. We've got Trenton Kramer, Kyle Robertson, Andrew Wozencroft going side by side with John Vogel as they come up through turn 5, up through Madness. Brad Gould in there, as well as Corey Heffron. Great little fight so far here on lap number 1. And as they are, and there's Trenton Kramer in the 444, you know, as they are battling it out, let's jump back to this battle for the lead where we've got Huffman and Antonio Rice, then Beans Forster, who made up a position, got around Miles Crab, so dropped Crab back to 4th. Patry picks up a position, moves up to 5th, taking over the spot that Megan Overstreet had. Great start for Josh Justice. He makes up 3 positions from 9 to 6th.
His Patry just went around the outside of the carousel. I don't think I have ever seen that been done. So a very good move, power move early on from Caleb Patry, as this 5-car pack, they're using the draft. They're not probably, I mean, I shouldn't say this early, but they're probably not going to fight too hard to try and make that gap between themselves and 6th, 7th, and 8th just that little bit bigger.
Yeah, you know, and imagine if Patry had used that move on. Oh, look at this! Jamison Huffman goes off track at the entrance to the keyhole. Our pole sitter and leader, he is now going to drop back to the behind to the end of this 5-car train. He's going to slot in behind Miles Crab here, but big mistake there from our pole sitter as Forster and Antonio Rice go side by side into turn 4. And Beans Forster, he's got the inside position. He went around the outside of Rice, and he takes over the lead.
Yeah, as Patry was looking to get in on that action just a little bit, as we were on board with Jamison Huffman, who went down the inside of Miles Crab into China Beach. But 3, 4, 5 cars even separated by the proverbial blanket here, as this is going to be a barnstormer to the end of this one, as Benjamin Forster has taken the lead here with, you know, we're only 3 minutes into this race. Still got a lot of racing to go for how hard these guys are fighting already.
All right, and it looks like Andrew Wozencroft and Stevie Ray have had problems early on here, and I believe both drivers may have spun, and they've both fallen to the back of the field there in 19th and 20th, just ahead of Mark Sherman. Maybe Josh has some information on that. We may be able to get a replay and see exactly what happened there. All right, let's take a look and see exactly what happened here. We'll jump back over as we follow the battle here. As we had Wozencroft there. Wozencroft, I think. Well, this is I've got our lead battle right now that I'm taking a look at. Oh, this is Huffman. Okay, this was when Huffman went off. All right, let's take a look. So we've already got Huffman sitting back in the back of the pack. Let's take a look and see what happened to Stevie Ray, as he's coming down the 4 and he's right back behind Andrew Wozencroft.
And he's already kind of gone there, so interesting for sure.
Yeah, so there you go. So Stevie Ray spinning up at the top of Madness back behind Andrew Wozencroft, who apparently had already had his off.
Yeah, as we're jumping back to the lead battle here, something that is very easy to talk about. We got Benjamin Forster and Antonio Rice going side by side through Madness, with Hoffman and Patry side by side right behind them. Beans Forster is going to be able to slot in front of Rice. Caleb Patry takes that opportunity.
Look at that move by
down
Patry.
The inside, slide job to the max, goes down the inside and then into the carousel, is able to block off that inside. Rice down to 3rd. Huffman still standing by, waiting to see if there's an opportunity to go through. But Patry all the way back up into 2nd from his starting spot in 6th. He's got pace and he's got a lot of aggression here. Not bad aggression, controlled aggression. He's making those moves and he's going to the front. He's got a lot of momentum behind him.
Yeah, indeed. He's not losing a lot of momentum as he's making these passes. He's able to keep the pace up here, as Brad Gould just turns the fastest lap of the race at a 135.44. Almost 0.8 of a second faster than our leaders are at the moment. So a good run there by Brad. Interesting story with Brad. He got his real life competition license this year in Spec Racer Ford, and he came out to do it, Morgan, primarily to see what the difference was between the sim and real life. Pretty much, as we've got a lot of brake lock up there from Antonio Rice going into turn number 4, as he almost got into the side of Caleb Patry there. So Gould wanted to see what the difference was, and he's made 2 races so far this year, he said they don't necessarily equate 1-to-1, but he's having a lot of fun in the real world in the Spec Racer Ford as well.
Yeah, as we just saw Huffman go around Rice into the third spot as after Rice took a little bit of a swipe at Caleb Patry, but didn't end up having anything doing there. So we're going to have to see that these back three in this pack are going to have to go single file, try and work back up to Beans Forster and Caleb Patry, make this still be a 5-car pack. But yeah, like you were saying with Brad, in my experience, these cars, there's some things that are very similar, but a lot of stuff is not. The way that the Spec Racer moves around in the real world and the brakes are very different, but the style of racing is really quite similar. Is seeing a lot of people just dropping tires on the exit of turn 1, getting the
Yes.
car to just use up all the road plus some.
All right, and this is Trenton Kramer in the 444 machine, Jim Brewster, who is a regular in the Ray Esports Racing Weekend Warriors League, the Spec Racer Ford League that is here every Sunday on Apex Racing TV. And then again, real life Spec Racer Ford racer Josh Justice out of Texas in the number 99 machine. Josh is currently running in 8th position. And these three have opened up a bit of a gap back to our other Spec Racer Ford racer. Oh, as Justice just goes off at turn 4. I was going to say he just opened up a big gap to John Vogel in the black number 4 Spec Racer Ford. John, a real life SRF racer as well. And then there's Brad Gould in that group as well.
Yeah, and we've got a replay on Jameson Huffman, I believe, or maybe Andre
Jameson here. And let's take a look at Andre coming into the S's or into the chicane here, and that tells me he's going to have a problem getting up the hill, going into the keyhole. Indeed, he does. And Wayne Buttermore and Joaquin Effinger just able to avoid him as they come through there unsighted.
Yeah, very good heads-up driving from the pair of them. It looked like Andre just got a little bit too much nose bite as he came over the crest of the hill, and that's the quirk of this car. You can't really get away with a ton of trail braking because it's going to put a ton of weight on the nose, and then the rear of the car becomes a pendulum. So it's a different style of driving than it was in the first 2 events or the first 2 classes that we had tonight. So definitely something that maybe caught out by the switch there.
Yeah, and you know, and that's one of the challenges here. I know a lot of leagues, they'll run the version of Mid-Ohio without the chicane, and the entrance to the keyhole very, very different. You know, certainly you've got to be able to rotate the car around, and you know, normally I think you'd be using a lot of trail braking in order to get that done to get into the keyhole. When you have the chicane, without the chicane, no, it's a much shorter, much straighter entry. And looks like it caught Andre Jameson out as we jump back over to this battle between Kramer Brewster and Josh Justice, who even with that off a lap ago seems to have made up a lot of ground, and he's right there back on the tail end of Jim Brewster's red number 933.
Yes, Brewster looked to have a little bit of a swipe going into China Beach on Kramer, but nothing doing there. The draft, as we've seen pretty much all night long, looks to be a lot more powerful than it was in our first race tonight. So lots more passing is going to be able to be done going into China Beach, and this pack is going to be a 5-car pack soon.
Yeah, as both Vogel and Brad Gould have now chopped down that gap to the 3 just ahead. As you can see there, Vogel in the number 4, the carrier machine, starting to close things down. The last time by John Vogel, he and Gould were about a 10th faster than Josh Justice ahead. And oddly enough, it looks like Brewster and probably Kramer and Brewster running a little bit off the pace of these drivers just ahead. And that kind of makes sense because we saw Justice make up a lot of ground on the 2 ahead after he had made his run through the grass coming through turn 4 on the previous lap.
Yeah, and that's we're seeing a lot of movement up towards the front of this field. Caleb Patry goes to the lead, Beans Forster down to 2nd, and Jameson Huffman up into 3rd, Rice and Crab bringing in 4th and 5th. But yeah, like we were talking about a little bit earlier on, Patry has the momentum. He's come from 6th into the lead within, you know, under halfway distance in this race. So he's got the pace, and he's very comfortable in that car right now.
All right, let's take a look here, Morgan, at that pass that Caleb made on Beans Forster.
So they're coming down the back straight, and we were just talking about how the draft is a lot more powerful than it was in our previous races. Looks like Patry just going to go right down the inside, looking for it on the brakes, and it looks like Huffman was going to try and sneak in underneath as well. Maybe a little bit of fender to fender, or not fender to fender, but side to side contact between Forster and Huffman. But yeah, pretty simply done move there. Didn't look like Beans really put up too much of a fight. It's a little bit early to do that. Kind of some co-opetition here. Patry's got some speed, he's got some pace, obviously. So maybe it's going through Beans' mind. Maybe I'll let him lead as we're going to go back to this battle for 6th. It is now most definitely 5 cars as Josh Justice getting caught out on the outside there. Gould and Vogel going to go underneath of him. Gould is maybe going to be able to close that door on the exit. There's Kramer, and then Brewster, and then Vogel, and then Gould. So it's another 5-car package. Hearing a lot of crashing and tire squeal up ahead as the front pack is going off a little bit as we're going 3 wide down into here. A whole lot is happening all at once.
Lots happened now because there's a big gap here now as Antonio Rice has fallen back behind Miles Crabb, and Beans Forster and Caleb Patry now falling back behind them. Our new leader, Jamison Huffman. Let's see what happened.
So we got maybe 3-4 wide even. Huffman goes down the inside. Oh, Beans looked to get into the back of Patry there under braking. Very unfortunate. Yeah. And then, a whole lot of knock-on effect right
And then it looks like Huffman got into the back of Antonio Rice as well, and maybe the only driver who didn't have any contact, I'm sorry, that was Miles Crabb, who got into the back of Antonio Rice. And Crabb is now taking his car to the pit lane. So it looks like, although he can get a quick repair and get back out, for the most part, his chances for the win here tonight are now done. Again, Crabb, our season 10 regular season champion, as we now take a look, and Jamison Huffman has now opened up almost a 3-second advantage over Antonio Rice. Beans Forster now sitting back in 3rd. Caleb Patry is 4th, and that now moves Trenton. That battle between Kramer, Vogel, Brewster, Gould, and Justice gives it a little bit more importance, because that's now the battle for 5th position.
Yeah, and they've not at all calmed down as they were coming into a whole big smoke screen and cars coming back on the track, but they did not really yield, as we're going to see Brewster going down on the inside into Vogel, into China Beach. Nothing really doing. Brewster had to back out of that. Covers the inside going into Madness. And Greg, I'm a little bit biased for Brad Gould. There's a strong connection with that car. I think I might like it.
Yeah, well, you guys have shared a car from time to time in real life, certainly. What I'm wondering, though, Morgan, is as Kramer and now Vogel and Brewster's, we've got Vogel now second car in that little pack. I'm wondering how much damage Caleb Patry might have picked up when he went off, because he did end up in the wall there with after that contact with Beans Forster. And, I'm just starting to wonder whether or not Kramer, who's ahead of this group, there he is in that blue 444, if he can pull that group along to the back of Patry.
And I just looking at that car, it really doesn't look like it's at all wrinkled. Honestly, Beans Forster looks like he's made out a little bit worse, and Rice as well. Pretty much everybody but Caleb, who's the only one who actually made it to a wall, has damage. So interesting there. He might have some wheel damage, but cosmetically the car looks okay, and he's still going along pretty well.
And Morgan, I'm looking at the right rear. Never mind the fact that it looked like he was 3-wheeling like a Volkswagen Golf, coming out of the chicane and going into the keyhole, but it does look like the right rear is slightly askew. Now, luckily for him, the majority of the corners here are right-handed corners, so the load is not being put on that right rear nearly as much, but it does look like it affects him coming over Madness.
Yeah, and honestly, for half of these corners, it could help out a little bit. That car might not want to understeer as much, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as he's starting to reel in Beans Forster for the last spot on the podium. But this battle for 5th still raging. There's Vogel still, actually, I think he's gotten around. No, that is the same order, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's still Kramer, Vogel, then Brewster. And then Gould, I think the big difference is Kyle Robertson in the green 215 machine. He's now gotten around Justice as well.
Yeah.
And Justice has fallen quite a bit off this pack.
Yeah, Justice has started to drop back a little bit into the clutches of Overstreet and Heffron, but going back to this incoming battle for third is Patry right back onto the tail of Beans Forster. That gap has really come down over the past few laps. Forster may be struggling with a little bit of damage, maybe some overheated front tires as he locked up pretty much everything going into China Beach. So we'll have to keep an eye on this.
All right, as we're now on board, there's Beans Forster, and as you can tell, he's kind of lost touch with Antonio Rice and Jamison Huffman. The gap now about 3 seconds from Rice back to Forster.
Oh, and there's Rice. I think he had an off going through China Beach, and he's going to fall off the podium as Patry and Forster are going to go right back through. As we're going to go back and take a replay, see what happened to Rice going into China Beach. Fairly normal here. Gets on the brakes, turning the car into the corner. Gets a little bit too much rotation. Loops it around, keeps it going though. Very good recovery. Gets out of the way. Nothing really impeding other drivers. So yeah, now a 3-car battle for second.
All right, so as you mentioned, now that moves Caleb Patry back up into third and Beans Forster up into second. And yeah, there's Rice sitting directly behind him. Rice now your 4th place runner, and even with all that, you can see here Trenton Kramer and his merry clan still running a couple tenths off of the pace of the 3 cars ahead of them. But you know, there's still now about now 7 minutes remaining in this 25-minute race. There's time for this group, and they haven't really been fighting it out all that much, Morgan. There's still some time for Brad Gould to, for Trenton Kramer to drag them up into that fight for I guess for second now.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Forster, Patry, and Rice are not going to go down without a fight. There's probably a large battle brewing. But as I say that, Brewster looking to the outside of John Vogel. Brad Gould going to have to pick somebody to go with, and he's going to pick Jim Brewster going around the outside of China Beach. Brewster holds it. Vogel pinched down to the inside, not a whole lot he can do. Brad behind trying to figure out some way to go as Vogel still hanging it around the outside of Madness. They're still side by side as they're going into this second section. Brewster down to the inside. Vogel make a little bit of contact towards the apex, but still side by side. Brad wondering where to go as they're finally going to figure that out after 3 or 4 corners side by side. And Kyle Robertson was about a second and a half back, is now right there.
Yeah, and you know, the big question I had was how John Vogel was going to handle turn 9, that right-hander that you make just before you come over the crest of the hill, because he had to stay rather defensive and entered the corner from mid-track. I was waiting for him to go drifting off driver's left and into the grass there. He did not, and that was a great run there, a great couple of corners there from again from the top of the hill at Madness all the way down through the S's and through turn 9. As we jump back now to the battle for second, still with Forster, Patry, and Antonio Rice.
Yeah, and all 3 of these cars involved in the incident earlier, so they might all have unknown damages. So that'll be something that each driver will have to be paying attention to. Somebody may be really good through right-hand corners, somebody may be really terrible in a straight line, and somebody may just be really good on the brakes. So it'll be something that you have to manage here. Looks like Caleb Patry is content to just kind of sit behind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and as we saw a little bit earlier, where Beans Forster wasn't so hot on the brakes, I was just waiting for Caleb Patry to return the favor. He didn't do it. He didn't send Beans all the way off to Columbus. So here we go, though. But as we now have 5 minutes remaining, Jamison Huffman, who was having to contend with four very tough competitors early on in this race, he is now free and clear, almost 6 seconds, separating the number 89 machine from that battle for second between Forster, Patry, and Antonio Rice. And you can see from the blimp shot as they come through the carousel. here, that how big that gap is, and also how big the gap is now to that next pack with Kramer, Vogel, and Brewster. Is we've got Kramer. He's started to stretch things out over and away from John Vogel, but again, just cannot get up to that battle ahead.
Yeah, and as we saw, Trenton Kramer getting a little extracurricular coming out of turn one, but with Vogel and Brewster, with how long they went side by side just a lap ago, they are now going to have to work very hard to get back into the draft of Trenton Kramer's. We're going to jump back to the battle for the last spot in the top 10 between Justice, Overstreet, and Heffron. Overstreet seems to be missing something here, Greg.
Yeah, she certainly is. That certainly will hurt down the back straight here, unless, of course, you can have a car ahead cut a big hole in the air for you. But you know, remember, Overstreet was off and had that incident on lap 1, corner 1, turn 1, where she dropped all the way back, I think, to 18th position from row number 2, and she now, if she can cement this advantage over Justice, and there's maybe a little bit of contact there, that will move her up to 10th position. And pardon me, she started 5th on, so she started on the inside of row number 3 tonight.
Yeah, and she has gotten through on Josh Justice. But honestly, if I'm Justice, I'm not really going to worry about that too much. We're coming up to the last lap here pretty soon. She's not going to be very hot in a straight line. So you can, you know, even get a reasonable exit out of the keyhole. You can pretty much blow her doors off going down the back straight into China Beach. So that'll be a good one to watch, as well as we're going to jump back to the battle for 5th. Spread out a little bit. John Vogel has reeled in Trenton Kramer, bringing Brad Gould a little bit with him, who's managed to get around Jim Brewster, who is now being hounded by Kyle Robertson.
Yeah, and you know, that was a great little recovery there. I really like the shot that we had of Brad Gould coming through turn number 11, heading over to the carousel, and he was really in a position as he drops down the hill into the carousel to have that rear end step out on him, and he was able to keep the rear underneath him and get that double apex turn negotiated without losing a ton of ground to Jim Brewster behind, who he had just passed.
Yeah, no, and this is some very good, some very good car control display on display. I can speak.
Yes.
So we're coming down to the last 2 minutes here. Kyle Robertson, trying to probe on Jim Brewster, see where he can maybe make a move, but Brewster seeming to defend pretty well here. Is gonna look real closely at the battle between Vogel and Trenton Kramer for 5th place. Brad Gould licking his lips right now. He's caught all the way back up to this pack, maybe gonna be able to pick up some scraps, as this will come down to the wire between Vogel, Gould, and Kramer.
All right, and with just about a minute remaining on the clock, Jamison Huffman takes the white flag. 1 lap to go here at Mid-Ohio as we watch this battle right now. Behind there is our leader, Huffman, coming through turn 1. He is starting the final lap, the 16th and final lap here. And let's jump back to that fight we saw just a second. Actually, let's go back to the battle for 2nd with Forster, Patry, and Antonio Rice, if we can.
This is we're gonna hang with the battle for 2nd. Beans Forster in the lead of this little pack. It's gonna be very important for him to get a good run out of the keyhole, which it looked like he does, but Caleb Patry is able to match him down this back straight. The draft is gonna start to take really big effect now. Patry down to the inside. Beans look to open it up a little bit. Patry, a little bit of contact down that straight. Patry to the inside. Rice right behind. You're going to see if Beans is able to shoot around the outside. Is able to keep it there as they're going to head into madness side by side. Patry around the outside is able to keep that car under him. And then into the right-hander. Patry's going to be able to slide across the nose of Beans Forster. Close that off, but I'm Patry. That's a very good move. You know, it's not a whole lot more opportunities for Beans Forster. He's got a lapped car right in front. That might screw over things a little bit, throw a spanner in the works. But Patry still right in front. Beans Forster right on his tail. Rice right behind, and a very good job from the lapped car there to stay out of the way. Patry down to the inside, going to close that off as Jamison Huffman's going to go 2 for 2, grabbing the gold again for the 2nd time in Spec Racer Ford. Patry will cross the line in 2nd. Beans in the 3rd spot with Rice 4th.
All right, there you go. Great fight there in the battle for 2nd. with, again, Patry, then Forster, then Rice. Let's jump back to this battle that we've been watching as John Vogel gets both he and Brad Gould get ahead of Jim Brewster, and more importantly, Trenton Kramer in the 444 machine, who had been sitting up in 5th position. He's going to finish all the way back in 9th, just now crossing the line. Megan Overstreet will finish in 10th.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one for Trenton for sure, as he started that last lap in 5th and ends it up 9th as Beans Forster doing some donuts in the grass there outside of turn 1. But yeah, let's
All right, tell you what, before we go and bring folks into for the interviews, Morgan, Josh is going to try and bring up and take a look at Trenton Kramer's last lap. We'll see if he can get that up here.
in the 5th spot here. So coming through these two right-handers coming out. Oh, he's got a little too much
turn 9 up the hill and into the gravel trap.
Yeah, and is caught by the gravel trap. Very unfortunate, out of a 5th spot there. So an unfortunate end to Trenton's night for sure.
Yeah, exactly. He'd run such a strong race all night long just to have it kind of fall apart on the last lap. All right, well, Morgan, tell you what, the only person brave enough to talk to you a second time tonight is Jameson Huffman, driver of the number 89 Spec Racer Ford. He was your winner tonight in the Ray Esports runoff. Let's hear from him.
Good evening again here, Jameson. You've gone 2 for 2 so far. That was a much more exciting and hectic race than your first win was. How did you kind of plan to pick your way through that before the carnage happened?
Well, I planned on trying to stay in front, and then I went into the keyhole and tried to turn the car, and the rear was not ready to turn yet, so kind of went off there and got sent all the way to the back. But I was basically trying to get back up to the front, and then I had an opportunity, and then it just seemed like all hell broke loose, and there was like 2 or 3 separate incidences just in that one corner, so I somehow made it unscathed. So I just kind of took that and then watched the gap after that to know how far I need to push for each lap.
Yeah, and so much had happened. I had completely forgotten about your off-track excursion on the first few laps, but it did seem like a close your eyes and pray moment going through the China Beach about halfway through that race. But you were able to come out unscathed, win the race by about 6.5 seconds. Now you got to be thinking to go for 3 now tonight, haven't you?
I mean, I gotta try. If I don't try, it's a crime, so. And I got no school tomorrow since I'm on break, so I can stay up as late as I want.
Well, there you go. Jameson Huffman's going to be bushy-tailing it tomorrow morning to go ahead and finish our MX-5 race, which is up next. And before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
I'd like to thank my parents, obviously, first, for just kind of everything. And Stevie Ray for putting on this league and everybody that drives it. Pretty much always a fun, clean fight. Always fun in there, and you guys for hosting this.
Well, thank you very much, and we wish you the best of luck, hoping to go 3 for 3 here at the Runoffs tonight.
Yep.
All right, there you go, everybody. Jameson Huffman taking the win tonight in Spec Racer Ford, following up his Touring 4 win. Hey, let's do this, Morgan. We've got Trenton Kramer, and we know he was just kind of sitting around, and I don't think we should be piling on with his last lap, but be interesting to hear what his thoughts were here about this last race.
Good evening, Trenton. So there was a whole lot happening in front and behind you. It seemed like there was a big separation after the first lap with Megan going around at turn 1, but you had Jameersfield and your eyes occupied pretty much all night long here.
Yeah, no, it was a crazy race start. I had to hop in here and at least give an apology to Megan. I believe I'm the reason she decided to go backwards across the track. I had a slight suggestion to her rear quarter, and just a great race with Jim Brewster and John Vogel the entire time.
Yeah, no, it was definitely fighting hammer and tong pretty much all race long, but an unfortunate start and end to your night, but a very good meat filling. So it's a strange hamburger, it's like soggy hamburger. But anyways, nonetheless, a very, very good race for you tonight.
Like
is anybody you'd like to thank?
Absolutely want to thank you guys for such a great opportunity, Morgan. I'm loving hearing you up here in the booth as opposed to being down there kicking my butt on track. It's absolutely awesome to be able to do this with everybody. Stevie for setting it up and getting all the sponsors in here so we can keep doing this, and Paddock Motorsports for their awesome opportunity in a B-Spec car for the Jetta drivers. Hopefully gonna hear who's getting picked for that in the next I don't know. I think that comes up soon, doesn't that?
Well, we've actually, well, you have to listen to the stream. We've actually already announced it, Trenton. So you're going to have some new teammates this coming season. Winners are, we'll announce it again, Megan Overstreet and Morgan Burkhardt.
That is awesome. Look forward to seeing you down there, Morgan, and I'll be sure to send my congratulations to Megan afterwards.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it very much. And will you be joining us again for the Mazda race?
Absolutely. I don't know if I'll stay any more on the road than I did at the end of the SRF race, but I'll give her a shot.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in that goal, and we'll see you not next week, in about 5 minutes.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everybody, there you go. That's Trenton Kramer finishing. And where did Trenton finish? He finished 9th tonight in our Spec Racer Ford race. All right, so Morgan, let's take a quick break. Get set up for our final race of the evening. That's going to be Spec Miata here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where you're watching the Season 10 Ray Esports Runoffs on Apex Racing TV. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and the Season 10 Ray Esports Racing League Runoffs. I'm Greg Ginsberg, along with Morgan Burkhardt here on Apex Racing TV. And Morgan, we've been through 2 races. We've got 1 left to go, and this is the one that everybody waits for. It is Spec Miata here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and a lot of the same faces, but we'll see how things play out. If it works its way, much like Spec Racer Ford, I think we could definitely expect some barn burners up at the front of the field as we watch right now. Miles Crabb and Jamison Huffman. And Huffman, I think, as opposed to last time in qualifying for Spec Racer Fords where nobody was really using the draft, I think Huffman's in a pretty good position here to use Miles Crabb to pull him down this long front straight.
Yep, and out of all of the cars that we've seen tonight, these Mazda MX-5 Cup cars are going to draft the most. They poke a huge hole in the air. The draft will go back to about 1.8 seconds. So if you do it right, and especially at a track like Daytona, it's worth about 3 seconds. And here it's worth about 1.5 seconds. So if you can play it right, wow, it's a huge advantage. Yeah.
And you saw there Miles Crabb pulled over drivers right after he had pulled Jamison Huffman all the way down the back straight. He conceded the position. He's now going to slot in behind the 89 car and hope to use his draft, because Huffman is your provisional pole sitter. We're halfway through qualifying with a time of 1:37.76, about 1/4 of a second, actually a little bit more than 3/10 up on Caleb Patry. Crabb currently your 3rd fastest driver, but look at that, same names. Megan Overstreet in the 044 car, currently 4th fastest. Trenton Kramer 5th fastest. That's not going to help Miles Crabb as it looked like Jamison Huffman had some issues going through the carousel there, had the rear end step out on him, and I'll bet you Crabb had to get out of the throttle to keep from just center punching the 89 car. That's not going to help his run onto the front straight.
No, as we were looking at Caleb Patry as he goes to the top of the timing sheets by about almost 0.4 of a second over Jamison Huffman, and it didn't look like he had a whole lot of a toe for that lap.
No, all on his own. So yeah, now he's got about the 0.35 of a second advantage on the 89 machine as Huffman, after that little spin over in the carousel, takes his car down the pit lane. We'll see if he comes back out, as we've got just about 6 minutes here remaining in qualifying. Andrew Wozencroft, who was on the pit lane, he's going to bring in the number 80 machine out. He is currently your 6th fastest driver, looking to improve upon the 138.84 that is currently his fastest time. He needs to best a 138.52 if he is going to move from the outside of row number 3 to the inside and leapfrog Trenton Kramer as we watch the number 80 machine. And Wozencroft's certainly not going to do it on this lap, Morgan.
Yeah, and as it looked like he was a victim of the deadly cold tires in this car, is just coming out of the pit lane with not a whole lot of grip, and the car really just didn't want to bite at all. So it's an interesting thing, is we're going to see that on lap 1, 2, and 3 of this race, as well as cars are just going to be kind of sliding around all over the place. They're not really going to want to settle down until you get 3, 4, 5 laps into this race.
All right, and so Trenton Kramer, or probably Miles Crabb, going to take another shot here as he just finished his out lap, and going to take another shot at setting fast lap. And oddly enough, he's right back behind Jamison Huffman. So we'll see if he can make that work. And Miles Crabb, Morgan, was your regular season champion, your season 10 champion in Spec Miata. And so as Huffman goes around again, coming out of the keyhole on cold tires there, Miles Crabb, we opened up the show and asked about who was going to at least three-peat or take the championship in multiple classes. Miles Crabb is your man in season 10. Not only was he your Touring 4 champion and your Spec Racer 4 champion, he was your Spec Miata champion as well. Megan Overstreet, though, she put up a heck of a battle, was second in the championship, much like she was in Spec Racer 4. Megan Overstreet second here, only 5 points back from our championship leader at the end of the season, Lewis Lockshine. And look and see if Lewis is in the field here tonight. I don't believe he is. Lewis Lockshine finished 3rd in the season 10 championship for Spec Miata.
Yeah, and it's very impressive what Miles has been able to do all season long. He's stayed consistent, and that's one of the big things that's needed to win a championship, is you don't have to go out and win every race. It doesn't matter if you go out and finish 2nd or 3rd every race. You're probably still going to end up with the championship at the end of it, but just because you stayed consistent, and that's exactly what Miles Crabb has done all year long.
Yeah, and oddly enough, Morgan, and funny you should say that, but in going to the win in Spec Miata, as opposed to the other 2 classes, Miles Crabb did not take a win this season in Spec Miata, and he did it by being consistent, by finishing on the podium almost every single one of the 6 races. And you see there, you don't necessarily have to be on the top step in order to take a championship here in the Ray Esports Racing League. As we take a look now at Stevie Ray, driving the number 11 machine. That is, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Stevie before the end of the evening. Stevie Ray is the Ray in Ray Esports Racing, who is bringing you this league now for 10 seasons. And we'll see if he has a little bit stronger race now. He is, by tradition, a Spec Racer Ford racer. He started off running, I believe, the original Spec Renaults in SCCA Club Racing back in the mid-'80s. And is certainly on the iRacing platform, has focused on Spec Racer Ford, but he's been putting in a good amount of time here in Spec Miata here in the Ray Esports Racing League over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things that we've seen for a lot of the different drivers here across all 3 or 4 classes, is they're starting to branch out. They're watching the streams, or they're hearing other drivers talk after the races about how much fun they had in the Spec Racer Ford or the MX-5 Cup cars or any of the other classes that we have on offer, and they try and get in on some of that action. And we've seen a Megan Overstreet, for example, go from primarily a Spec Racer Ford driver to then dabbling in the Jetta and the MX-5 as well. And it's really cool to see how some of these drivers who come in with the, kind of like I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but somebody
as a specialist almost. And
yeah,
and how they end up branching out and get a better feeling for how different cars handle. And and as we know, as you mentioned, for example, in the Jettas, how there's so little that you can set up other than putting different amounts of fuel and changing the weight balance that way, versus what you can do in a Spec Miata versus what you can do in a Spec Racer Ford, and how those changes affect the cars differently.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's actually what I've learned a lot over the course of my own driving career is when you start to drive multiple different cars at some of the same tracks. Like if you drive 7 different cars at Mid Ohio, for example, you'll learn 7 different things about how to drive that track and how to drive each car fast. So it helps you become a better driver when you branch out and explore all of the options that you have.
There we go. As we're watching Megan Overstreet now, is this will likely be her last lap, as we've got now only about 5 seconds left before the checkered flag comes out. She's currently your third fastest driver on track, just about a tenth off of Jamison Huffman currently. And so we'll see here. She's coming around the carousel for her last attempt and see if she can beat a 137.759 as she comes across the line. She is not quite as fast as her previous best. She turns in a 130. Let's take a look here. A 138.75. So she was about 9/10 off of her previous fast lap. That is going to leave her at best third fastest and third in qualifying. Miles Crabb. We'll take a look here. And I think Crabb was able to start this lap, Morgan, before the checkered flag came out.
Yeah, so we'll see if there's going to be a buzzer beater towards the end of this race. And in my experience with this car, the more laps you do, the faster it gets. So actually, it looks like Miles Crabb is going to be aborting that lap and heading back to the pit lane. But we're going to go and jump on with Raymond Blethen, and he's coming out of Madness into Thunder Valley towards the end of this lap. He's heading into turn number 11. We're going to see how close they get to the wall before turning into turn 11. Clipping that curb, tracking out quite nicely, getting down to the exit curbing, going into the carousel, off the brakes, kind of dabbing with it, making sure that car stays balanced through the corner, gets an exit. We're going to see if he's going to be able to improve on a 138.99, comes across the stripe and does improve by about 0.06 of a second, leapfrogs himself up into 8th, which would be on the 4th row of the grid.
That's right. Moves up from row 5 to row number 4 on that last lap. That was a great line that he had through the carousel. Ray Blethen and his brother Steven, who is currently sitting 14th, drive the MX-5's big brother, a Mazda RX-8 in SCCA road racing. As we're watching now, Josh Justice in the 99 machine, he's trying to improve on his 139.62, is not able to do so. And he is now finished, and Ray Blethen is just on a cooldown lap here. The system's going to probably kick him out in just a moment. And so, Morgan, want to remind everybody here that our final race of the evening here in the Ray Esports Runoffs is brought to you by the SCCA Foundation. There's their logo up in the top right. They're a 501c3 public charity that supports SCCA and motorsports initiatives through programs and projects like the Teen Driving Program, known as the Tire Rack Street Survival Program, Women on Track Scholarships, Vet Motorsports, Formula SAE, and so much more. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at any time by browsing to sccafoundation.org. All right, so Morgan, we've got our drivers gridding up. Tell you what, I took the Spec Racer forwards. Why don't you go and grab these Spec Miatas?
Sounds good here, Greg, as we got Caleb Patry will be on the pole with a time of a 137.400. And Jamison Huffman will be on the outside of the front row, just about 3.5 tenths back. Megan Overstreet and Miles Crabb will be 3rd and 4th, with Trenton Kramer and Kyle Robertson rounding out the 3rd row. Wozencroft and Raymond Blethen 7th and 8th. Rick Wishon and Stevie Ray, the Ray behind Ray Esports, in 9th and 10th. Brad Gould and Mark Sherman will round out the 6th row on the grid, and Joshua Justice and Stephen Blethen, the other Blethen, will be 13th and 14th. Andre Jameson and Wayne Buttermore will round out 15th and 16th, with Joe Camilleri from Canada and Joaquin Effinger will round out the grid. And we see it pretty much every single race, but Wayne and Joaquin pretty much inseparable.
Yeah. I was going to say they're not going to be starting side by side on the same row. I don't know what they're going to do. Is they're starting, one in front of the other. We'll have to see how it plays out here. As the pace car now getting ready to bring Caleb Patry and Jamison Huffman here on the short pace lap. They'll hopefully get rolling in a moment here, as we've got all of our drivers now on track. And looks like the Porsche driver having trouble figuring out how to get that automatic transmission into gear.
He's having a
There
devil
we
of a
go.
time as he finally gets it, and we are rolling on the very, very short pace lap.
Stalled it out 3 times.
He had to go through the start procedure. It's all right.
Exactly.
It's all right. There's a lengthy one there.
Yeah,
But,
it's like flying an airplane. There's a whole checklist you got to go through before you can get a Porsche pace car to go around the carousel. And we can see Jamison Huffman tried to get a little bit of heat in the tires. Morgan, I keep thinking back to a couple seasons ago where we had practically the top half of the field all in the grass here on the first lap, because these MX-5s, they got very cold tires here, and things can be absolutely treacherous on the opening lap. As Huffman and Patry take the green flag, our pole sitter Patry side by side with Huffman as they come through turn 1, then Crab and Overstreet in row 2. And so far, I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like the whole field has made it through turn 1 successfully as Jamison Huffman takes the point coming into the chicane, and he's going to lead the field out here. And so far, so good.
Other than, I think, Joe Camilleri having an incident in turn 1, eating the inside wall on the exit, we're all good. But
Sorry, Joe.
as you said, Huffman has been able to take the lead. I say that Patry is gonna go right back at him down the back straight, and might actually get the move done before they even get to China Beach. Is side by side under braking, Huffman to the inside, Patry not able to outbrake, and they're going to go side by side or single file through the corner, looking at some side by side further back in the pack with Stevie Ray and one of the Bolethans. But as Stevie Ray, I think, has gone around coming out of madness, and might have some big front right damage there, as that car's not going to want to turn.
Yeah, and that's after Stevie Ray had made up 4 positions there on the first half a lap. And it all turns for naught for him. He's going to continue on. We'll see if he takes his car back to the pits or if he tries to continue on with this race. And, you know, Morgan, it was interesting watching Patry come under braking down into turn 4 as he had used that draft and slingshotted far past Jamison Huffman. Just did not seem to be comfortable and thinking that car maybe would have the grip going around the outside of turn 4 there, and was just very cautious. And you know, I think he now knows how strong the draft is on the back straight. You know, once he knows that those tires are up to temp, it's certainly a move that he's got in his quiver that he could use again.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of testing out those waters, maybe for a last lap move. So it's all about probing and seeing where you're strong, seeing how the draft is going to affect you. Is riding on board with Miles Crabbe is very interesting, as most of the drivers in front and behind him are using first gear through the keyhole. He's keeping that in second, so it'll cut down on some extra rotation that's maybe unwanted on the entrance to the keyhole and wheel spin on exit.
All right, so it looks like Mark Sherman as well as Andre Jamison have taken their cars back to the pits, as well as Joe Camilleri trying to get that repair done after that lap 1 turn 1 incident. As Patry's going to as they came over madness, he's I think gonna hold station there and may wait another 23 minutes or 22 minutes or so before he tries that outside move again. Ooh, big wiggle from Huffman as they go into turn 9, and Patry might not have to wait as he's now able to come right underneath Jamison Huffman. He's going to be set up to the inside going into 11.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to Patry's going to be able to ramp the outside through turn 11, move him up into the lead as he was our pole sitter, move Huffman back into second. But we have a very defined 4-car breakaway for the lead of this race. There's a big group of 4 or 5 cars back for the 5th spot.
That's right. You got Patry, you've got Huffman, you got our regular season champion Miles Crabbe, and then Megan Overstreet, who finished 2nd in the championship. And then it's about 15 car lengths back to Kyle Robertson, who's Robertson during the regular season found himself in the top 2 rows to start these races, had a number of podium finishes over the course of the season. He though I think, Morgan, we see him usually with a fairly slow start, and usually I think his strength has been the consistency over the course of a long race, that he's usually just happens to be there at the end of a race. We'll see how things play out as he's got Trenton Kramer as well as Ray Blethen and Andrew Wozencroft as they come into turn 4, and very, very optimistic move there. And although it was optimistic, it was perhaps with a lot of foresight, as Trenton Kramer, which is what optimistic would be, I guess. Trenton Kramer taking over now 5th position from Kyle Robertson.
Yeah, he slots through, and even in those few corners is able to get out a little bit of a margin between himself and Kyle Robertson. So maybe Kramer with a little bit more of a pace advantage, but Kyle Robertson back into the clutches of Raymond Blethen and Andrew Wozencroft. We'll see if he can kind of stop the bleeding and maybe latch onto the back of Trenton Kramer. Maybe they can bump draft, and when the leaders start to fight, reel them back in, make them a little bit hot under the butt. So jumping back to the lead pack is a little bit of a gap starting to form between Miles Crabb and Megan Overstreet for 3rd position. Megan's starting to fall a little bit back off, but she is still very much in the draft.
Yeah, her pace is only a couple hundredths off of Crabb just ahead, and we're already seeing though Trenton Kramer starting to separate himself out from that 2nd pack on the previous lap. Now he was about 2 seconds off the pace, and I think that has to do primarily with that battle that he had with Kyle Robertson, as short-lived as it was. But on the previous lap, Trenton Kramer was actually running just about the exact same pace as our top 4 drivers, as Patry and Huffman now are going to go at it once again. And once again, we've got Patry to driver's left. He's on the outside, and again, Huffman outbreaks him going into turn 4 and is able to cover him coming up over the Crest of Madness.
Yeah, it seems as though Huffman is a lot more comfortable on the brakes and getting that car rotated down into turn number 1. A lot more than Patry anyways, is Huffman's still with the lead of this race. Gonna hop back to Miles Crabb's view as they're all getting real close down to that wall, as we've been talking about pretty much all night long. Coming through turn 11. We're seeing a few different lines here from each of our leaders. It's an interesting corner that there's definitely multiple solutions to. So Jamison Huffman taking a more shallow line where Caleb Patry kind of missing that first apex and hitting it on the backside, but they still come out of the corner pretty much bumper to bumper. So an interesting shaped corners. Yeah, we've been talking about that turn 1 curve, that step up pretty much all night as well, and these cars actually can't hit it.
Yeah, although it looked like it affected the rear end of Patry's car just a little bit, and Crabb had a little bit more speed on exit, but just couldn't really do anything with it. Let's take a look. We've got right now Kyle Wozencroft on Kyle Robertson here, and let's see what happened here. As we see Robertson right at the front of this field. He's got Blethen and he's got Wozencroft as they're fighting out of the carousel coming onto the front straight.
Yeah, it looks like Kyle Robertson got a little bit crossed up through the middle of the carousel, and Wozencroft and Blethen were able to kind of drive around him going down the front straight into turn 1.
Yeah, so Robertson, just as I was saying, he's consistent, and he uses attrition and uses other drivers as inconsistencies to get up to the front of the pack. As Robertson now sitting back in 8th position. He started 6th this evening, and great run there. Ray Blethen now up into 6th position after having started in 8th.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We do apologize, but we're gonna hope to jump back to live action soon. But for now, we will keep an eye on this Wozencroft, Blethen, and Robertson battle as they're going down into China Beach here, Greg.
That's right. Now it's saying replay here. I think, well, at least our screens are saying replay as we get this restarted. But this is live action here, and I think we've got everything back underway. And we'll see what Wozencroft does. So Andrew, he is a very calculating driver, but always seems to err on the side of caution. Does not put his car, if possible, into a questionable position, and we'll see what he does here as he comes though right underneath the Blethen car, the 151 machine, and Robertson's going to try to come back on the 151 as well, as Wozencroft now moves up into 6th position. Great job there, taking advantage, very quick to pounce on the misfortune of the 151 car.
Yeah, and like we were talking about in the open tonight is how if you get behind in the steering a little bit, you get behind the track, it's so hard to catch back up, and that's exactly what happened to Blethyn is he's now going to lose 2 spots because of that.
That's right. And all right, let's take a look a little bit further back. And this is Josh Justice and Rick Wishin. And Wishin now running in 10th, Josh Justice in 9th. And did I see a little damage on Justice's car? No, that was just the paint job there. Although I think from the looks of it, Justice may have had a couple offs already.
It is definitely a possibility, and one of the other things is these cars are, pretty much built to bump draft. But the only issue is that if you bump draft any hard at all, it tends to fold up the front bumper and nose area and gives you a little bit of aero damage.
So it was interesting, Morgan, as we take a look and jump back to this battle for the lead with Patry, Huffman, Crab, and Overstreet continues to be those top 4 and all sitting about a car length separating each one of them. It was interesting because we had talked a couple weeks ago. You had mentioned as you had a drive in a real live ND2 MX5 Cup car, and how there was a huge difference in the way the steering felt in the sim versus real life, and that in real life, maybe the power steering was a little over boosted and you couldn't really get a good feel for what the front wheels were doing. And as I was watching, as Mazda held their MX5 Cup shootout this past weekend at Carolina Motorsports Park, I'm trying to recall which driver it was, but actually mentioned the exact same thing as he was being interviewed by Shea Adam. Also mentioned the big disconnect there is with the steering, hardy har har, from real life versus what's in the iRacing sim that so many drivers use to train in those cars.
Yeah, and it's almost like if you were to want to replicate really, there's a little bit of a jink there from Huffman getting a little bit of loose into the carousel. But if you really wanted to replicate how the Mazda MX-5 Cup cars drive in the real world, turn your force feedback down to 2. It's like the power steering in the car is almost a little bit too good. So as Miles Crab gets a lot of curb there and has to make a correction in the middle of turn number 1, but stays on the track pretty well. Yeah, if you wanted to replicate it, you have to turn the force feedback way down. The force feedback is so good. Oh my!
Oh, Huffman has some issues.
He goes pretty loose and sideways going through the middle of the corner, but stays side by side on exit with Miles Crab. They're going to take a drag race down to China Beach. Looks like Huffman was able to get a good run off the corner. We'll see if he can chop down onto Miles Crab as they get to China Beach. But in the meantime, Caleb Patry is going to be laughing in the mirrors. These two are going to be fighting for second spot. So a little bit of contact there between Miles Crab and Megan Overstreet at the apex. Huffman down to the inside of Madness. Miles Crab hanging it around the outside. We'll see if they have overlap going into the second piece. Miles down to the inside, hops that curb, and actually has to withdraw from that fight as Huffman is able to take back second place. But now they've got a lot of work to run down our leaders, Caleb Patry.
Yeah, Patry in that little section there was able to open up almost another 4 to 5 tenths of a second. You can see the big gap that he has opened. That's going to make things certainly more challenging for Huffman. Huffman gets very loose again, rotating through the carousel, and I think we're starting to see there where Huffman just doesn't have a lot of rear end bite through some of these sweeping corners, Morgan, and now Crab has to find a way to deal with it.
Yeah, it looks like Miles is smelling blood in the water. He wants to go through as Huffman's going to take some extracurricular lines going through turn number 1. They're going to stay single file going through the chicane, but I would not be surprised to see Miles Crab pop down to the inside or the outside going into China Beach on this lap.
Yeah, and we've seen where Crab, again, usually very calculating, usually does not let what the driver ahead or behind does influence his driving, or, his driving style all that much. And I just wonder now with Huffman, being so unpredictable at this point, if it's going to upset the way Crab drives, and maybe we start to see Crab with some additional tire wear, something that Megan Overstreet can take advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. Because Megan really hasn't had to fight anybody. She hasn't had to really work those tires super hard all race long. Whereas a Patry, an Overstreet, or a Patry, a Crab, or a Huffman have had to really work those tires. They've had to been making passes. As we saw, Miles Crab look down to the outside going into China Beach as Jamison Huffman was defensive, but Huffman's able to retain the spot for now. We'll see if he can rein those rear tires in as I think he's brushing the wall going into turn number 11 for like the second or third lap in a row.
And it probably doesn't, and you can see here where Huffman is taking a much later entry now into the carousel. He straight lines the entry and kind of diamonds it off at the end here. But yeah, I'm just wondering, is the more Crab thinks that Huffman is injured, the more aggressive he's going to get trying to get around that car. Again, it's still it's very easy to stay up with the car ahead. It's going to be very challenging to get around. As we see here is again Crab taking a very different set, and there you go, Crab waiting and turns in a little bit later, and he is now able to edge ahead of Jamison Huffman through the keyhole, and that was probably just exactly what he needed to do. Morgan was just wait a little bit for turn in, and but Huffman, you could see there, great run out of the keyhole.
Yeah, and he's going down the inside, going into China Beach. Crab breaks fairly deep around the outside. Huffman has to leave him room on the exit. Just a car width, got very close indeed, but Crab going back to it. And Huffman's got to have to slot back in, move Crab up into the second spot. But we saw Huffman get so loose going through the middle of the keyhole, and that's what allowed Miles Crab to make a brilliant move around the outside through China Beach.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, he continues to get a good run out of there, though. As if that early rotation in the keyhole, as long as he can stop the car from rotating, he actually can get the car squared up on exit and still get a decent run out of there. I mean, the only other thing I can think of is that he's running a heck of a lot less fuel than Miles Crab is right now. But we'll see here is now Crab doesn't seem to be too happy with his run out of the final corners and onto the front straight to complete lap number 10.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how Huffman wants to play this. It seemed like he wanted to really keep Miles behind, but now that he is behind, we'll see. Maybe he thinks that he's got a little bit of a pace advantage as they're making contact going into the carousel. A little bit of a bump and run there from Huffman on Miles Crab. Got pretty loose in the chicane half of that, but move Huffman back up into second, Overstreet into third was the big beneficiary from that incident, as Miles Crab still a little bit in the draft here, but not quite down and out yet.
All right, now it's Megan Overstreet's turn, and we'll see how she handles the number 89's handling issues here, as she's going to follow him up the hill and up into madness here, and we'll see if she just decides to kind of hold station and let and we've seen over the course of the regular season she will do that as well. Is again, she's gonna in many cases let the driver ahead have those issues and then just wait until the last minute to pounce, and she still has now, Morgan, just now about 7 minutes remaining in this race. So still about 6 laps or so remaining, 5-6 laps. She's got plenty of time.
Yeah, no, she definitely has a lot of time, but let's go ahead and take a replay. Let's go take a look at that incident between Huffman and Crab going into the keyhole. We're gonna ride on board with Huffman. You see Miles Crab get pretty, yeah, it looked a lot like Miles Crab got offline, and Huffman didn't really compensate quite enough for the speed differential once they got back online, and pretty much a very unfortunate racing incident there.
Yeah, exactly. And we said it that maybe Miles Crab having to find a way around that very inconsistent number 89 machine might have been running his tires off as well. And we saw him having trouble navigating his way into the keyhole. But we'll take a look here as he is starting to close things up just a little bit on Huffman and Overstreet. Well, let's see what Overstreet does. You said how strong that draft is, Morgan, but Overstreet just doesn't seem willing to run the car deep into turn 4.
Yeah, it doesn't look like she's super confident on the brakes against Jamison Huffman, but still got about 6 minutes left. There's still a lot that can happen as Miles Crab is still right in the mirror of Miles or Megan Overstreet. So this battle for second, it looks like it's going to just be the three cars as Caleb Patry has checked out a good bit as you see him going through Thunder Valley already as he's going through turn number 11. He's about 4.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field. So I don't want to say smooth sailing, and I don't want to say he's got a good chance. So he's just driving out there.
All right, as we jump back up, here is Caleb Patry. And again, when it comes to Caleb Patry, I have to couch whatever I'm going to say. I have to be very careful because I have been known to impose the announcer's curse on him one too many times. But for the moment, Caleb Patry now with a 5.5 second advantage over that battle for that very tight battle now for second in Spec Miata. And Patry's just, he's just turning laps at this point. This is kind of what we saw all season long in Touring 3, where he took the Touring 3 regular season championship in his GR86. He just kind of checked out early and, ran consistent laps because he didn't have any pressure.
And that, in a perfect world, is how you would like every race to go. Is a fairly boring and easy race from his perspective. He's just going to go out and drive laps for the rest of this race. That is all he has to do. He doesn't have to push. He doesn't have to worry about anything. Whereas Jamison Huffman, for instance, has to worry about two cars behind him as he's managing his own devilish handling characteristics of that Mazda MX-5 Cup car, as it seems to have calmed down a little bit. He's not anywhere near as loose as we saw in recent laps.
Yeah, and and that could very well be that he just doesn't feel the pressure from Megan Overstreet that he felt from Miles Crab, lap after lap.
Yeah, and definitely Megan Overstreet not able to get to the bumper of Jamison Huffman like Miles Crab was, but Miles is definitely all over the bumper of Megan. We'll see how long he would like to wait, because when Miles makes the move on Megan, which I am fairly certain he would want to do, he doesn't want to lose a ton of time, because then you're suddenly having to catch that down. You're suddenly having to catch that much more on Jamison Huffman. So you're going to want to do it in a place that you don't lose a ton of time. So let's take a look and see if something happens out of the keyhole on this lap. It's closing down as a benefit of the draft here. They're going to go into the keyhole on the brakes. It's going to accordion up, get real close. It's going to see Miles Crab keeping that car down tight to the apex, using that curb for a little bit of extra rotation.
And a little grass over the curb too.
Yeah, getting that really rotated around the inside of the curb, but it's going to be difficult for Miles as Megan has a very good draft off the back of Jamison Huffman. We'll see if she wants to look for a move. Maybe is drafting right up to the back. She's going to poke down to the inside, going into China Beach. Going to hit the brakes around the same time as Jamison. They're going to go side by side through the corner. Huffman down the inside for madness. Miles Crab is going to follow him through. Huffman gets the move done, but now Megan's got Miles to worry about as they're going to go side by side through the right-hander. Megan's going to regain third position, and all is fine for now. But yeah, we saw Miles try and make a move, but it wasn't in a very good spot, something that he could really do anything with. So Huffman will remain in control of this pack, but Megan's got to worry now. She's got pressure from behind, and she's really got to move forward at this point. You can't wait for too long, because then any opportunity you get to pass Jamison Huffman, Miles is going to take that as well. So you really have to be eyes up, heads up, and it's head down for now. We got 2 more laps to go.
That's right, as we've got 2 minutes left on the clock, and Patry now heading into, actually coming out of the chicane here momentarily. We should have this lap and 1 more here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and our final of 3 races here as part of the Ray Esports Runoffs, the Season 10 Runoffs. Caleb Patry is your leader currently with a 7.5 second advantage over the 3 drivers just coming out of the keyhole now. Jamison Huffman, Megan Overstreet, and Miles Crab a little bit further back. Actually still a good fight going on. Trenton Kramer and Andrew Wozencroft going at it, and they're only a couple car lengths apart as well. And you know, Morgan, I think surprise, surprise, Joaquin Effinger and Wayne Buttermore in battle for 12th position right now are locked nose to tail. Well, that was until Joaquin Effinger went into the pits.
That is definitely a shame, but we see Megan Overstreet making the move for second, goes up on Jamison Huffman, and is now, you know, in probably not the best positions. They're going into what will be the final lap. Megan Overstreet looking like that car is getting a little bit loose as we come down to the latter half of this event. But Jamison Huffman all over the deck. It's a little bit loose, does Megan Overstreet going into turn number 11.
That's a weird place to get loose like that too, Morgan.
Yeah, I think the bump draft maybe not timed very well during a corner, but glad it didn't end up in carnage. But Megan Overstreet will lead this pack onto the final lap. What does Miles Crabb want to do? Will he take the move? Will he push Jamison Huffman? Are they going to go 3 wide into China Beach? We're just going to have to wait and see.
All right, and we saw there that Megan got a great jump out of the carousel onto the front straight. You know, I fear that's going to close right back up as soon as they get out of the keyhole, or maybe even before they get to the keyhole, as they now come under braking. And once again, we see Overstreet running very wide on entry. She's able to get the car down to the apex, however. But we've seen here where Huffman can get great runs out of the keyhole, and he's definitely locked in the draft. The question is, what does Megan Overstreet do? Does she pretend? Does she protect to the inside? Does she protect to the outside? And she's going to leave the inside open for Huffman, and we'll see how late she can get on the brakes. Not late enough. Once again, Huffman outbrakes her into turn 4, and as they come up over the crest of madness, Huffman moves back into second.
Yeah, and it's a very good move from Huffman that puts him back up, but Miles Crabb still right all over the back. He's going to maybe take a look into the double right-hander, has to kind of wait as they're going to crest the hill going into Thunder Valley. Miles Crabb's going to have to get very brave and aggressive here if he wants to get onto the podium. Megan Overstreet going real tight down to that wall going through turn number 11. Crabb gets a pretty good run out, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make anything happen. He's going to look wide, but Caleb Patry will take the gold for the Mazda MX-5 race. And
hit
about
the bridge
8 seconds. Has a very exciting finish as Huffman will not go 3 for 3. He will go 2 for 3 with a second place, and he's gonna give his buddy a pound, as does Miles Crabb. But
that's the iRacing equivalent of pounding fists there. As Huffman finishes second, Overstreet will come home in third. Miles Crabb, our regular season champion, will finish 4th. Trenton Kramer 5th. Andrew Wozencroft 6th. Kyle Robertson will finish in 7th, and Rick Wishin finishes in 8th. Josh Justice makes up 4 positions tonight. He is, I believe, your hard charger. He will finish 9th, and Ray Blethen will round out your top 10.
It's a pretty nail-biting race down to the end there, but Caleb Patry, like he did in the Touring 3 race, was able to just check out and run laps there from about halfway.
All right, let's do this, Morgan. We've got now our top 3 drivers are sitting in the green room. Why don't we bring in first Megan Overstreet, who finished 3rd, and we can break the news to her about the Sim to Track initiative, if you like.
Well, there you go. I would be happy to do that.
And I'm gonna bring in Stevie Ray as well, and let's see here, because Stevie Ray might be able to help us out a little bit with this. Megan, congratulations on your 3rd place finish tonight here at the Runoffs.
Thank you.
And don't know if you've received the word yet, but more congratulations are certainly at hand here, because you have won the Grass Paddock Motorsports Sim to Track Award for our non-licensed competition racer, and you come home tonight, and I don't want to say tonight, but this is based on 3 seasons of racing here at the Ray Sports Racing League, all of calendar year 2023, with an award of an Arrive and Drive package, so that you can go and earn your competition license, your real life competition license. And great package. I don't even have the pricing on it, but it's got to be a couple $1,000s there from Frank Schwartz and Grass Paddock Motorsports.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you so much, y'all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that, yeah, go ahead, Stevie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to congratulate Megan too, that she's really come a long way over the year, and all the stuff that she done. Some of our criteria was promoting the league and participation and all of that, and she nailed it. So congrats, Megan. Well earned.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. She was our season 9 T4 Jetta champion, which certainly went a long way as well. So, Megan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your race this evening? Big fight tonight with Miles and Jameson.
Oh, that was so incredibly fun. My ping was a little bit bad today. I don't know why. The last few Tuesdays, my ping has just been awful. But I was trying to race as hard as I could, but still give a little bit of extra space just in case there was that little thrust motions that could cause some problems. I know I hit, I can't remember who it was, but I rear-ended them going into China Beach, and they gave us both the 4X, but luckily it didn't spin them out. But I was like, oh, this ping is just killing me. I can't race as hard as I want to.
Now, he certainly put up a great fight there with, and it looked like all three of you had some pretty ill-handling cars towards the end of the race. You had the second place in hand there going into the final lap. Do you think you maybe made that move going into turn 4 a lap too early?
I didn't think I did. I just didn't defend well enough. I broke just a little bit too early. Had I been able to maintain the outside to keep him from being able to scoot up right in front of me, I probably would have been able to defend it, but we'd have gone side by side for the rest of the lap, I think, which would have been a blast.
All right, well, Megan, congratulations tonight, certainly, on your winning that Arrive and Drive package from Paddock Motorsports, the Sim to Track initiative, a great pile, not a pile of work, but a legacy of work here over the 2023 season as you've moved beyond just racing Spec Racer Fords to all the different chassis we have here in the Ray Esports Racing League. And congratulations on your third place finish here tonight at the Runoffs. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Frank Schwartz. Really appreciate this award a lot. Y'all for doing the broadcast, Stevie for putting this on, everybody that shows up each and every week to have a great time and do some hard racing out here, and my family for watching the broadcast and cheering me on. Thank y'all so much.
Very cool. All right, everybody, that is Megan Overstreet finishing third tonight here in Spec Miata at the Runoffs. All right, so Morgan, let's now bring him in. I think this is the third time tonight. Jameson Huffman, he did not get the three-peat here. He finished second in Spec Miata.
Good evening yet again, Jameson. It was another very interesting race from your point of view, but the big takeaway that I got from watching you racing in the MX-5 was that thing did not look like it wanted to go in a straight line. We know that you have a Miata that you drift in the real world. I didn't know you wanted to do that in the virtual world as well.
Yeah, I was just getting some practice in for next season, getting sideways, just trying to feel how the car feels, get an idea.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it looked certainly
okay.
Looked like you got crossed up quite a lot, and that's just kind of how this car is. But was that more of a setup thing, or was that just kind of getting used to the car again?
I think a mix of a setup thing and just driving a little bit too hard at the start. So I think I just cooked my rears at the start, trying to hold first gear through some corners that first gear just kind of cooks them way too fast in, and I just paid for the half of the race. So.
Well, that is definitely very interesting, but nonetheless, you come out with a silver medal, 2 wins, and silver is no easy feat. So you were able to make that nice last lap move on Megan Overstreet, but. Yeah, I mean, we've gotten who you wanted to thank, so we'll see you next season.
Yep, see you guys.
All right, there you go. Jameson Huffman, driver of the number 89 Spec Miata, finishing second tonight here in Spec Miata at the Runoffs. And so let's finally bring in Caleb Patry, who I did not hit with the announcer's curse on this final night of the season. Congratulations, Caleb.
Thanks, but are you sure you didn't mention my name in that surf race? Because bad luck kind of struck there.
Did we or did we not?
You know what? I'm gonna say no. That's
No.
All right, all right.
While he's here, we're gonna say no, and then we're gonna move
That's
on.
great.
It didn't
I haven't
happen.
watched the broadcast yet, so
I'll be
give you
long
that
gone
one.
when he finally watches the
Right.
replay.
So yeah, no, you had another very good race. It was pretty close for the start, but the second half almost looked like a T3 race where you were able to check out. You had some really good pace, and once Jameson had his little cross up going through the keyhole, you were able to kind of check out. Were you just running laps towards the end of that race?
Yeah, basically. I mean, the car was at the point where I felt, really comfortable in it. It was loose, but a kind of a manageable kind of loose, where you can just kind of let it do what it wants to do. So I was able to just kind of put down some laps. It sounded like Jameson was scrubbing off his tires by practicing for his new daily driver. But yeah, up until that point, it was definitely a good battle though between the four of us, James, Miles, Megan, and I. So overall, good race.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it, and you had another exciting one. You didn't end up in the fence going into China Beach, so that is definitely a pro. But yeah, I should have done so many interviews, and there's so much action tonight. I can't remember if we've had you thank people yet or not.
No, this is actually the first interview I've done tonight.
Well, there you go. Well, then, is there anybody you'd like to thank tonight?
Yes, certainly. Steve Ray and everybody else who puts these races on, and makes these happen. Apex Racing TV for once again an exceptional broadcast. Then of course, I believe my family back home was watching, and Thor. Hello, everybody.
Well, we thank you very much, even if we do manage to jinx you every week. So we look forward to see you in the next season, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
All right, there you go, everybody. Caleb Patry taking his second win of the evening. Took the win in the Touring 3 in the Toyotas, and skipped out on his interview, Morgan. And then also taking the win tonight in Spec Miata. It's Caleb Patry. You should also mention that Caleb Patry got his competition racing license in one of the Grass Paddock Motorsports Mini Coopers 2 seasons ago, and he's done some great things since then. So hopefully Megan can repeat that, and we'll look to see what she does at a racetrack near you real soon. All right, so Stevie, why don't you, as we get ready to wrap things up here tonight for the Ray Esports Runoffs from Season 10, why don't you give us a little rundown of what's coming up in the Ray Esports Racing League in the near future?
Well, we're going to take a break like we always do between seasons. Looking probably around 12th of December to kick back up. Still working on putting some sponsorship into place, but we've got a new sponsor already lined up for next season. We'll let that out shortly. And again, just to thank everybody who's made all these 10 seasons so far a success and grow the league. And Greg, I know that we're going to be missing you next season, and appreciate your work through the 10 seasons as well. It's not easy to do this every week and then go out and do the real world and then go work a real job. And you're a busy man, and I appreciate what you've done for us.
Well, I want to thank you, Stevie, and my hope is maybe season 11 on Tuesday nights. I'll be there girded up with Wayne and Joaquin, and it'll be 3 of us side by side for every race.
Yeah, come on out.
That's right. I may very well do that. And I thank you. I really appreciate it. And as we've worked together since the SCCA Esports Super Tour and moved into the Ray Esports Racing League, I've wanted nothing more than to see this league grow into to see folks like Frank bringing people from the virtual world into real world racing, which is where I have my roots, and seeing so many folks that have grown up over the last 3 years or so racing in the Ray Esports Racing League, like a Morgan, like a Jameson Huffman, or a Deacon Greenfield Beans Forster, who's going to be going out and racing in Spec Miata in the next year or so. So many folks that have started off with virtual racing before they get behind the wheel of a real race car and do real club racing or pro racing. It has been a pleasure to watch that progression from so many drivers.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've always, that's my passion, is helping to connect the real world and the sim world, with my career field being simulators professionally, and then the hobby being this. I said I can't say what it means to me to see those young guys come up through the ranks and get on the track and do so well. I mean, look at Morgan. He put it on the pole this season. That you just can't say enough. And appreciate you stepping up into the booth this season, Morgan. Did a great job.
Well, it is my pleasure, and I appreciate the words. Yeah, I always love commentating over these leagues. There's so much action, and there's always a lot of fun with the drivers as well.
And last for the night, I've got to thank our sponsors this season. I mean, Grass Paddock and Frank sticking with us and doing what he's done for the whole year. Great job. Such great support from Frank, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. They were there all year too, and the last couple of years. So we really appreciate them. And then Jeff Jacobs and SCCA Foundation stepping up and sponsoring this week. What can you say? You know, you really appreciate that. This one's a special one at the end of the year and end of the season, and give those guys a shout and support all the work they do. There's several different venues within SCCA Foundation to help women on track and teens safe driving and just a lot of good work they do. So reach out and give them a hand.
That's right. If you want to make a donation, you can make a donation to sccafoundation.org. And yeah, Jeff Jacobs, who I interact with quite a bit with a different league on Monday nights. He's a great guy, and is the director for SCCA Foundation. Does wonderful things in taking, bringing motorsports really to the masses and really expanding the reach of motorsports, as we've seen from Grassroots Motorsports Magazine over the years, from Grass Paddock Motorsports with their initiatives as well. So the choice of sponsors that have come on board, I think, have really done this group well, and I urge everybody watching and everybody driving, for that matter, to please speak to our sponsors, and if you have the chance, thank them for all they've done to allow us to race and allow us to broadcast these races for 10 seasons. Awfully quiet all of a sudden. All right, so Stevie, and why don't we wrap things up here? As we said, season 11 will be coming in just about 3 weeks, mid-December, right before Christmas. Stay tuned for more information about that. But for Morgan Burkhardt, for Josh Wilkie, I'm Greg Ginsburg. Thank you so much for joining us here on Apex Racing TV. If you like what you saw, please go ahead and demolish. I have to ask you every single time. Demolish the thumbs up button and click the notification bell or something like that. Yeah, exactly. Apex Racing TV has great virtual racing throughout the world and throughout the week. And click on that notification bell. You'll find out every time we go live. Lots of great content. So thanks so much for joining us for these last 10 seasons. Season 11 coming up soon. Hope to be on track with some of these wonderful racers. I'm Greg Ginsburg. Have a wonderful holiday season. Wonderful Thanksgiving coming up here, everybody. And we'll see you soon.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.